And hello, everybody, and welcome to this wonderful episode of Canuckleheads. It's number 69. Nice. We have a special episode today and a very special guest. We have Mr. Eric, don't call me Latin X, Rolon. Yes, I'm excited to have you. We have so much to talk about today. I know we're gonna do things a little bit slowly here. We're gonna ease things in, gonna let people filter in. We're gonna talk a bit about you to start the stream. But how the heck have you been today?
Going to be having a really in-depth talk. Can't go too much into what it's going to be about until it gets closer to airtime, but been doing a fair amount of research on that. Just topics of discussion. Also, we have a bout of the cold going around the Rolon household right now. So my son, Christian, I call him T-Bird, he has a bit of the sniffles right now. So yeah, we've been having to boogie suck him every couple of hours and make sure that he's able to breathe through his nostrils. Otherwise, he sounds like he's hacking up a lung in his sleep. Subsequently, my wife ended up catching the same bug. So we've all been kind of
worst.
Yeah, we've all been laying low, just eating our Jewish penicillin, chicken soup for those who don't know what it is.
Yes.
And no, it's been a very, very good day.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that you're at least having a good day, and it's getting even better now. It's getting even better now.
Absolutely.
Right on. Well, we have a lot to talk about, so I don't want to waste a second of this stream because I know that you're a busy individual, and we want to respect your time. But so Eric, you have been a voice actor for a long time. There's a lot of people that just found about you very recently, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a long acting journey for me. You and I just spoke briefly last week, but I officially got my start in entertainment back when I was 4.
Yeah.
And that was through doing lots of plays and musicals that my church put on. The church I attended in a little town of Rochelle, Illinois, they would pull out all the stops and they would put on these humongous Broadway-esque productions where they would literally build these water feature sets into the church, and we do Christmas pageants and Easter shows and all that. So that was where I got my start, and I did that for up into my early 20s.
Oh wow!
And
awesome.
I made the I ended up having a bit of a foray into the professional world of acting when I did an internship at Disney World. And I got to be a character parade performer there. I couldn't say I played Goofy or I played Woody. I had to say I was friends with Woody or friends with Goofy.
Oh, yeah.
And if ever somebody took a picture of me to post online, if they came to visit Goofy or Woody on set, they had to tag a tree or a window somewhere in the background as me. They couldn't tag the character.
That's hilarious. Oh my goodness. Holy
It was very, very funny. You could get terminated. We called it being termed for such weird little infractions because it's so much about preserving the show there.
Wow.
Just they are gung-ho about it. But when I moved back from there, I was like, I think this is what I want to make my entire career doing. I knew that I wanted to be acting in some capacity, just in life.
Yeah.
But once I got back from there, it was like, nope, I want to do this full time. This is what I want to build everything on. And I ended up getting back to the school that I was attending. I finished up my final year there, and fresh out of school, I started waiting some tables, and I ended up booking a role on the show with the Playboy Club, which was put on by NBC. I don't know if you ever saw it. It was very, very short-lived show. They unfortunately just went to the wrong network.
Oh, of course.
And yeah, and they didn't even though they were, I think their show came on, I think it was airing at 9, so it was after prime time. It just wasn't the right market for them. They should have gone to like Showtime or Cinemax or HBO, something like that. Because I know that they had a lot of the actors and actresses on the show sign nudity clauses because it's the Playboy Club. I mean, come on.
I would never
But
fly now like that.
oh my goodness, yeah. Now if now if you're not pulling like the George R.R. Martin level of skintimate, then you're just not doing it right.
Exactly.
But
Oh my goodness.
yeah, it was just risque enough
Yeah.
that we ended up getting hit by, it was like the Coalition of Parents something, and
You know you're doing
I
something
think
right.
yeah, I think what it boiled down to, because the show itself was actually very good. There
Yeah.
was always a really awesome dancing and singing number
Oh.
during the show itself. Laura Benatti, who is a fantastic actress, she was all over Broadway. I mean, she's got a set of pipes on her. She could blow the windows off off a 747. She's got that kind of power in her voice. Well, I think people just looked at the name and went, "Oh, Playboy Club, tits and ass. We gotta get this thing yanked." And they didn't
Yeah.
bother to actually learn what the show was about. It was, about the beginning of the club, which yes, that is a component of it. That's what Hugh Hefner made his mark doing. But the club itself was so much more than just being part of the dank, dark, windy city of Chicago.
Yeah.
Um, so we
Wow.
ended up getting canned after 3 episodes, unfortunately. But
Wow.
we finished the whole season out.
Okay.
Actually filming. I got to have a big party at the end of it in the Playboy Club, which they had actually built inside what I have to assume was an old steel mill. So it had these incredibly high ceilings, and it was like you were in an airplane hangar.
Oh wow.
And so after the show got canned, it was like, well, I guess maybe I should stop trying to just track down my own acting work. Maybe I should get some representation, because I'd
Yeah.
had an agent before I went to Florida, but I had to put them on hold because I wasn't going to be there for almost a full year. And I guess it was probably a month after the Playboy Club ended, I ended up
Yeah.
signing on with Stewart Talent in Chicago.
Okay.
And from there, everything started to just really rapidly build. I signed on with another agency in Chicago called Lily's Talent, and then I signed up with another agency up in Wisconsin. So I pretty much had the whole eastern divide of the U.S. covered in
That's awesome.
terms. It really came together. All I can say is it was a God thing, and it was just at the right time at the right place. Um, and things just started to build from there. I started taking some classes. I started really educating myself more on the acting craft as a whole. So when I watch movies, even to this day, if I watch movies, I find myself subconsciously studying the way the actors are either doing a voice, or the way that they're carrying themselves on screen, or the way that they lean into a line. And I might as well just have like a pad of paper and a pen next to me, just watching and rapt attention. It feels
Love
like I'm
that.
doing work, even though I'm trying to enjoy it.
Love that. That's so
Yeah,
great.
it
Yeah.
was, it's fun. I have to remind myself sometimes, like, hey, you don't have to be acting now. You can just enjoy this show for what it is.
Yeah.
Um,
And so this eventually, all of this passion for acting, for the stage and all that stuff, this eventually led you to a little known place called Funimation, right?
yes, it did.
Wow.
So I'd always been a huge anime fan, and the first anime that I'd actually gotten into, oddly enough, was a Bible-based anime called Superbook. For
Oh.
anybody out there who used to watch Trinity Broadcasting Network, I grew up in a Christian house, if you couldn't tell at this point. But that one, it was all about these kids who went back in time to the Bible days, and they're getting to see like firsthand Moses and God freeing the slaves from Egypt, and they're getting to see Jesus actually get crucified and all this crazy stuff. But I'd always really loved anime, so I was a big Dragon Ball Z freak back in the day. Tenchi Muyo,
Oh yes.
Outlaw Star, all those good old ones.
Yes.
Um, and I remember before I really had even thought seriously about doing voiceover as a potential career, or even voice acting as a potential career, um, one day my mom, because she always loved that my buddy Greg and I, we would do just the craziest voices, but we would stay in character and we would just concoct these whole huge scenes between the two of us, because we're pretty good at improv acting. And we call it pretend time. But back then it was just us just goofing around where we were playing Halo or something. And so she just got a hold of me one day and she goes, "Hey, I signed you, your dad, your brother, and your friend Greg up for a voiceover class. You're gonna go take
Nice.
it, and I'll hear no bones about it." So I ended up going to this class. It was at a college that I had just transferred from to the school NIU, where I actually did my illustration major. Went there, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Like, I do maintain that in order to do voice acting, you have to be an actor first because, your voice is just the extension of you. It's a stringed and wind instrument all at the same time, but you have to have the prowess behind you to be able to use it effectively. And thankfully, I had all this musical theater, so I had the lung capacity for it. I had all this stage acting because I did plenty of straight plays too. And so shortly after, I'd say when I turned like 24-ish, I had taken a jaunt out to Nashville, Tennessee to help a friend move her stuff out there. Fell in love with the city. And then I learned that Lionsgate was going to be putting a new studio out there and a new hub because they were so close to Atlanta. And it was like talks of Nashville being the next Tinseltown. So
that's exciting.
Went back home. Yeah, I went back home, and my mom, she says, hey, thinking about getting out of here? I said, yeah, I am. And she just went, go, don't look back. Just get out of here, kid. So, okay. 3 weeks later, I was in Nashville, and I figured, okay, I'm really starting to get on to the voiceover side of things now. I'm really, really loving getting to play with my voice. I was getting to start auditioning for kids' products like Fisher-Price toys that talk to you, little online video games, and I got to Nashville figuring, okay, this is Music City. There's a recording studio on every single corner. There has to be a huge market for voiceover here.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Really?
Nothing at all. Nothing. It is just
wow.
music there. Just music and the show Nashville.
Wow.
Yeah. But it ended up being a tremendous learning experience for me because at that point I had really grown to become just the worst person that I knew. Had totally walked away from my faith, even was definitely not living the life that I should have been. Partying, slaying my coworkers, all that stuff. But in the midst of it, I ended up getting into a really bad relationship with this gal who went totally crazy on me. So I had my friend Greg actually come to be our roommate overnight. We just had to like pack up and leave, get the truck, get a U-Haul, go. So we were homeless for about a week and a half.
Oh, wow.
I got to the point where I had $2.75 in my bank account. We were able to, all in 1 week, bless her heart, my friend Lauren, who I had originally lived with when I went to Tennessee, her mother was staying with her because their work makes it so that they travel all over the U.S.
Okay.
And so she happened to be just in Nashville at the time. So Lauren was putting her mom up. And her mom is very, very business savvy woman. She runs the books and stuff for their cleaning business that they have. And she said, all right, boys, come here. You guys can pull up a couch here. But in the morning, 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock, you guys are submitting resumes. You guys are making phone calls. You guys are polishing up everything. And then every night at 5 o'clock, she would take us someplace new for dinner. Yeah, it was such a tremendous blessing. And she, obviously she didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
The business was very, very good, and she had plenty of money to be able to do so. But it wasn't like she was just taking us to hey, we're gonna go get Taco Bell or we're getting McDonald's or something. It was like, no, we'll go on downtown to Fleming's, where they have $60 steaks and they got cocktails starting at $12 a piece, and we're gonna go ahead and get you fed. But just so you know, tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock, you're turning in more resumes. And so, long story short, got a job, got a house. My car was totaled out in front of the house when I was asleep one night. My roommate let me borrow his car. His brakes ended up locking up while I was on the way home in the rain, so crashed his car. Had everything just fall apart on me, but I ended up meeting my now wife, Kylie. And shortly into meeting her, she'd actually tracked me down through my Facebook fan page, and she made known, hey, I have a passion for voiceover too.
Yeah.
Can you help me out with this? We got together. She ended up starting to do audiobooks through a website called ACX. And she hit so much work in that first 2 weeks that she had to quit her other job. And so I ended up being able to quit my job and start doing duet audio narration with her and doing engineering for her on the side.
That's so
And
awesome.
We got married, and she goes, hey, do you want to stay in Nashville for one more year, or do you want to go on down to Texas? And I said, you know what? I want to go to Texas, but I want to learn a little bit about it first. So she says, well, I know Eric Vale. I'm sure I can probably set up a meeting for us. He's going to be at a convention in Pigeon Forge. Let's go talk to him and see if he can just kind of give us the 411.
Interesting.
So we went to Pigeon Forge to this convention, sat down for a late dinner with him, and he filled us in on everything. And I said, just just for my own peace of mind, I said, tell me that there's more than just voiceover there because I like to be the full package actor.
Yeah.
He said, oh yeah. He goes, there's enough work out here for everyone. You just got to be bold enough and willing to work hard enough to go out there and get it. So we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, all right, we're not even going to try and go there for a week. We're just going to just pick up and move. So we did. And let's see, it would have been July, I think 22nd, 2017 was the first time I stepped into Funimation.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So we moved here at the very tail end of 2016, and I had my agent by May 2017. So let's see, May, June, July. Yeah, 2 months later, I had started working at Funimation.
That's actually pretty incredible. Because some of the credits, I mean, I know there's an anime out there. Many people really haven't heard of it. It's just an up and coming one called My Hero Academia.
I hear kids mention every now and then.
Where you landed a pretty significant role in there.
I did. I got to play the role of Kendo Rappa in My Hero Academia, and it has been hands down my favorite role that I've ever gotten to play, bar none.
That's so awesome. So how did that come to pass?
Well, so I'm currently with the agency, the Campbell Agency, based in Dallas, Texas, and when I had first gone in to sit down with the head of the voiceover department there, her name is Sharon. She is awesome. She is just like a bulldog in the industry, and she's super fun and quirky. So like when we sat down, she just leveled with me and she goes, all right, have you heard of anime? I'm like, yeah, I've heard of anime. You heard of Funimation, Okratron? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, great. We got a lot of work for them. We're going to try and get you in there as quick as possible. I'm like, okay, sweet. So I had ended up taking a class with Chris Rager and Joel McDonald, and Joel had seen me in class, and he's the one who actually gave me my first start there. He saw me in class, and he said, hey, send me your demo after this. And the following week is when I walked through the doors. But Sharon, as agents do, and this is why it behooves oneself, if you're really, really serious about doing acting, especially voiceover inside this market, you really want to get representation because they can get you into places that you can't just walk into.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she sends us any number of auditions every single week. And sometimes it's like, hey, here's a game. Here's a cornflakes ad. Hey, you're going to read for Church's Chicken. Here's an anime ad. And I started seeing more anime ads pop up. And we were getting ready to head to go visit my wife's family. See, I think it was for Christmas. Yeah, I think it was for Christmas. And so this is like the month leading up to that visit. I had an audition come through for My Hero Academia. And it was for the Shie Hasaikai arc. And there was mention inside there that at least one of the characters was already taken, but it was okay if you wanted to read for that character because she just wanted to get a feel of our voices. Right. And I saw Kendo Rappa there, and I saw like the big muscles, and I read a little bit about him. I'm like, oh, this dude is, he's a dog chasing cars. This guy sounds awesome. And so I just, usually when I do an audition, I have a rule of 3. Mm-hmm. If I don't feel like, I usually give like 2 quick takes. If I don't feel like I quite hit it in those 2 takes of a line, I'll give 1 more. That's my rule of 3. Then I'll listen through it, and then I have my 4th take called One for the Hat, and I'll usually do 1 more read of each line if I'm not feeling like it's super, super there. This was one where in 2 takes, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm not going to touch it. It's got to be one of these. So I called in my wife because she's sometimes when you're immersed in something, it's like you don't quite have the ear that you need for it.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, between these 2 of each line, what do you think? And so I played them for her, and she's like, first one, second one, first one. So I went through there, put it together. I'm like, all right, well, if you want it for me, God, here it goes. Boom, sent it away. And then forgot about it. And so we're now on vacation. This is over a month and a half later. And I see one of the guys who ends up getting picked as one of the 8 bullets of the Shie Hasaikai put up that, hey, I just got cast as Rukia. And I looked really quickly at the picture, and I thought, oh, shoot, that's Rappa. Okay, well, I guess I didn't get it. Aww. And I was a little bummed out. I'm like, man, I thought I had such a great audition for that. Oh, well. And what was really funny was at the time, that it was like shortly after I had auditioned, I was actually shadowing over at Funimation to start directing there. And I was working with Kyle Phillips this one day, and we were directing some people, and I was headed out to the lobby, I believe, to go grab the next person who was going to record for their session. And Colleen Klingenbeer walked by me and she goes, "Hey." I'm like, "Hey." And she goes, "You had a great audition." I'm like, "I know I did 2 characters at least." "Oh, which one?" She's like, "Both." And then she turned around and walked away. I'm like, what do I do with this? And Ian Sinclair looks at me and he's like, "Well, you got a good audition, did you? What's it for?" And I'm like, "Oh no, she just said both." So when I saw Rukia got taken, I was like, "Oh no, Rappa, my boy." Oh well, that's fine. Something else will come along. And then Carly, she's like, "Sorry you didn't get it, babe." And then she looked at the picture and goes, "Wait a minute, this isn't the one you auditioned for, is it?" I'm like, "No, I guess not." Very next morning, I get a message from my agent saying, "Hey, you're booked for My Hero Academia the week you get back from your vacation."
Let's go.
I'm like, I was like, "Ooh, oh gosh, I hope so." So it was like the day after we got back from New York. I go into My Hero and I'm like, "All right, I've gotten super, super excited for shows before where I thought I'm a shoo-in for such and such a character, but then I've walked in and they go, 'Hey, you're playing Soldier 4A and Guy 4D, and you're playing Shopkeeper 4C, and then you're doing some Walla.'" And I'm like, "Oh, cool."
Like, dang.
So I get there and I'm just hanging out in the lobby, and I get called back, or I didn't, I thought it was called back. It's my time came up, so I went back to the studio, and I walk in. As I open the door, I see on the screen, it was a freeze frame of Rappa standing like this. And I'm like, "All right, don't scare them with your intensity." So I like walk in and she goes, "Hey, Eric, oh, good to meet you." We hadn't gotten a chance to work together at all before this point, but she's like, "Oh, good to meet you. My name's Colleen. This is Austin. He's going to be our engineer today." And she's like, "Have you heard of the show My Hero?" And I go, "Yeah, I watched the show." And she goes, "Have you read the manga?" I go, "Yes, I do read the manga." And she's like, "Oh, okay, great. So you know what's going on here." And I said, "Yeah, I've got a handle. I'm caught up." And she goes, "Okay, well, you're going to be playing the role of Rappa." And I turn and look at the screen, and outwardly, I'm like, "Oh, wow, oh, fantastic, great." On the inside, I was like, "Fuck yeah!" But I just was like, "Oh, fantastic. Oh, great. Yeah, let's do it." So she's like, "All right, we'll hop in the booth." I hopped into the booth. And we just did like the first coupling of lines, because usually once you've got the understanding of how the beep track works for queuing up your next line, once you understand the mechanics of that, it's kind of like being a snare drum player. It's just like, and it's almost like a rhythm game. So usually instead of just doing one line at a time, they'll have you do, if it's in a big chunk, it's like 3 or 4 lines all together. And so you kind of cue it mentally where it is. Okay, I start there, I start there, I start there. Okay, and I finish there. So she had me do the first couple of lines, and suddenly the headphones cut out. And usually when you're recording in the booth, there's a talkback pedal that the director will have. So say I might be directing somebody and I don't want them to hear my voice while they're trying to record because I can throw them off. I'll just click it to mute it, and then I might turn to the engineer and say, "Hey, hang on to that first take. I'm going to see if they can give me one more, but if not, we'll grab the first one, then I'll unmute it and go, 'Okay, hey, give me one more shot on that. I love what you did there. Just put a button on it.'" And then I'll mute myself. But you can hear inside your headphones when it goes dead and when it comes back on. And so it just went dead, and I'm just standing here, and it's just a long stretch of silence, and I'm like, so I look through the window and I see them both talking, and they're both kind of gesticulating, not wildly, but like doing this thing. And then my headphones click back on. I hear, "Oh, thank God." I go, "Excuse me?" And she goes, "You can do it." I said, "What?" And she's like, You can act. You can act. Oh, I'm so glad you can do it." She goes, Thank God, everybody so far who's playing the Hasaikai, everybody has such great acting chops. Oh, we're going to have some fun." And she goes, "I love what you did with the voice there. Just stick with that." And the rest is history.
Hey, there you go. Well, congratulations. That's a heck of an achievement to just kind of like walk in the door there and land like a significant role. Now I know some people have been chomping at me to ask. They really want to know. So
Down the real talk here.
Yeah, the real talk. Are you still with Funimation, or do you have any contracts with them, or are you still working with them?
No present contracts. And I'll kind of go into the setup for it, I guess. Well, I guess I won't say it. I'll wait till we actually like get into it. But
Yeah.
as of right now, no contracts with Funimation. I'm not directing anybody there presently. And it's been a few months since I've actually been called in to do any voice work.
Okay.
So not that I think I'm, somehow blacklisted, which I mean it could very well be a possibility, given the nature of the last month and a half.
It has been a bit of a tumultuous time for you. So we're going to get into the Funimation stuff in a little bit. We're going to get into the Funimation stuff in a little bit, but I want to talk a bit about the blowback that you've been getting for just kind of speaking your mind about the whole Kyle Rittenhouse situation. Now, you created a huge shockwave, because you committed 2 cardinal sins, sir.
I guess so.
You knocked off 2 birds with one tweet. You were not only supporting Kyle Rittenhouse, but you were sharing the devil himself, Nick Rekieta, and his coverage of it. How dare you?
I know. I just, like I said, I used to be the worst person I know. I guess I retained that moniker from time to time.
So what, I guess we'll just start from the beginning. Like, how did all that start? Like, when did you first come across that, and what happened?
Yeah, so this would have been, I guess, back during that whole kickfic fiasco where it was the issue of, they're not going to have him play Broly inside the movie, but then Toei was like, no, we want him to play Broly, get him in there, we got to have him, and there was all kinds of infighting, and then it comes out that whole big mess with Marky and with Rial, and all these names are getting dropped, and people are just getting dragged, and so obviously, when something like that happens, especially in a place that you're working, you want to at least stay abreast of what's going on. And so we're watching on YouTube, just listening to the crack, as they say in Ireland, and just seeing what people are saying and just listening, trying to get just stories from all vantage points.
Absolutely.
And my wife Kylie and I, we're not really given to gossip. We're not really given to poisoning somebody behind another's back. So we kept our mouths shut on the whole thing because we still have a right to privacy in this country. And just because I think something doesn't mean that I have to just vent it all the time. So it's like we had our own thoughts and opinions on the nature of what was going on. But we were like, you know what? I know the gatekeepers are online. I know that they watch. I'm not going to go down for taking sides one way or the other here. I'm just going to just be a neutral party and learn what's going on. Well, we stumbled across Nick Rekieta's streams. And it was like, wow, this is... we're getting some information from an actual practicing lawyer.
Yep.
And he's got access to documents and court documents and video that, kind of like with the whole agency situation, otherwise somebody else just couldn't get a hold of. Just watching some streams and such, it was like, okay, well, I guess we're kind of getting some information on what all is going on in this case. But
yeah,
even then, it was only like, okay, well, that's interesting, and then we'd switch over to watching something else, like a cartoon or something like that. Well, when the Rittenhouse trial came up, it was like, okay, I want to find out what's going on here, but we don't really watch a whole lot of like mainstream network stuff like that.
Exactly.
And so pop on YouTube, because I watch people like Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro or Michael Knowles, kind of like the intellectual dark web online. And I see, Nick Rekieta's stream popped up, and my wife had actually put it on. And so we're watching it. It's like, whoa, there's this panel of, like 10 lawyers here. And, oh, wow, this is really cool. They're actually giving like a play-by-play of what's going on. And I'm like, wow, this is some really, really, what's the word? Like very, very in-depth kind of analysis.
Because like you have Nick, like just by himself, he is a practicing criminal defense lawyer. Like he knows his stuff. And then he has access to a bunch of the people in that community. Some practicing, some retired, but they have a lot of insight, and they had more insight than any of the mainstream media sources.
Yeah, and like that was what really I found to be just so intriguing, because you couldn't find that anywhere else. That's not like a common thing. You don't just get to turn on CNN and find a panel of actual experts giving you the play-by-play of anything. And even if you do, there's typically a very, very heavy bias that's going on.
Exactly.
Hold on one second. My wife is texting me real quick.
No problem.
Sorry.
No problem.
But what was I saying? Oh, anyway, so was watching the stream, and I thought, more people need to see this, because I'm still seeing people posting online up to this point that they're just finding out, oh, Kyle didn't shoot 3 black people, and I'm like, what narrative have you been listening to that makes people think, oh yeah, that's what happened? Like,
exactly.
Where are you getting your information from? So I thought, my mindset is very much, I don't have to like everything that a person does, everything that a person says, everything that a person is beholden to or runs on their platform if they're in politics.
Yeah.
So I thought I can separate the art from the artist. And
Absolutely.
like with the whole Kevin Spacey thing, like I think Kevin Spacey is a fantastic actor. Not such a good human being, but a hell of an actor all the same.
Exactly.
And so I can separate the art from the artist. Not to say that I don't think Nick is a great guy. I think he's an awesome dude, and I commend the work that he's done. I think he's really, really made a name for himself, and he's got a fantastic YouTube channel, very, very informative.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess let me correct something real quick. I'm being informed from my wife that I have to do like a little retraction here. I'm not exactly sure on the whole Broly movie, whether who wanted Vic in or who wanted Vic out. I'm not really sure on all that.
Right.
I guess take what I said there as hearsay, or what I have gleaned from watching a number of different channels.
Okay. So you're just picking that from the media. You didn't have firsthand.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't have, not like I called and was like, hey, who wants you in this thing? Who wants you on this thing? No, it was just stream of consciousness knowledge that you find while scrolling the walls on Reddit or on YouTube.
Right. Okay.
But anyway, back to the Rittenhouse thing. So I thought, I'm going to share this thing, because I'm tired of seeing so many people online be so vehemently vulgar and vile about things that they have no concept or idea about, and also things that they're not even going to do anything about. It's like people wake up with this desire to just, let me find something else to be outraged about today. Absolutely. And then let me go and level all these attacks on people that I've never met before, wishing literally the worst kind of evil on them. And go to bed, wake up, and do that again? Like, that's insanity.
And you experienced a bit of that. You got a taste of it.
I did. Because like it's really, really hard for me to not engage when I see injustice happening. Little bit of background about me as I was growing up. My brother and I, he's about the same height as I am. I'm 6'3". He's like 6'2.5". Well, we were always the biggest and the strongest of our friends growing up, so we naturally became the protectors.
Right.
If somebody was picking on one of our friends, usually the person would say, "You better stop, or I'm going to tell Eric and Ian." And then suddenly the bully was like, "No, don't tell the Rolon brothers, please don't tell," because it was like if one of our friends was getting picked on, we would show up there. It'd be like 1, 2 fights over, and we'd send the bully packing. So it's really, really hard for me to stand back when I watch somebody being dragged and lied about and painted to be just a monster. And it's really hard for me to just let lies go, especially when I have either firsthand knowledge of something, or when I have an understanding about something, because I am a biblical historian as well as just a historian in general. So like when I see people who don't understand about a particular time in U.S. history, or they don't understand a particular time in world history, I'm like, let me clue you in as gently but firmly as possible without trying to be a dick about it. So I've been chomping at the bit now, because I've been wanting to join the culture war for about the last 2 years. And I'll tell you, I'll finish this story to tell you another story
Perfect.
afterwards.
Love it.
But about 2 years, I've been really, really just like, I got to get in here. I'm bred for more than this. Like, I don't want to say I'm a cerebral stud, but I'm a cerebral stud. Pop that ego. And I know that I can weave a tapestry with words that leaves probably 99% of the people that I actually communicate with in just total awe. Again, pop the ego.
Kaioken times 3.
But anyway, so I've been every time I'll like craft something really super just intellectually just like a bomb. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm ready to send it. But because, my wife and I, the two have become of one flesh and one mind, I'm always like, all right, I obviously don't want to do anything that's going to cast her in a negative light. And I don't want to just go and be belligerent for the sake of being belligerent. So I'm like, hey, babe, I'm thinking about putting this up. What do you think? And she'll look at most of them. She's like, no. Don't get involved. Just stay out of it. Don't do all that. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I just felt this building up inside of me where I'm like, but I know that I could say something here and I could help shed some light where it needs to be. Well, through all of that, it was getting to the point where there was more, I'd say, concern or fear for me potentially losing out on work because people are just so fickle and are just so tribal that depending on who you side with politically or which way you lean socioeconomically, they will try and destroy your livelihood. They will come for your friends. They'll come for your family. They'll come for your work. They'll try and destroy your money-making opportunities. And it's absolutely tragic and sinister that happens. And so that was a lot of motivation behind why I wasn't able to say so many things over the last couple of years leading up, because I'm like, oh man, you're right. We're still full-time actors, but full-time actors means that while you are working fairly consistently, you do have a lot of downtime.
Yes.
And some months it's feast, some months it's kind of famine.
Mm-hmm.
We've had months where we clear just massive amounts, and we've had months where it's like, oh no, where rent's coming from, but we'll figure it out. And so it was trying really hard not to just jeopardize that by just being a blowhard and firing off in every which direction. Not that I was trying to do that. I'm very, very focused. But my wife, she was like, hey, just for my sake, because she hadn't really come to grips with, okay, this is who my husband is. This is what he has to do. This is what he's called to do.
Right.
And so skipping ahead now to the Rittenhouse thing, my buddy and I, we started up a separate YouTube show. It's called Hot Button Co-op. You guys have probably seen it being posted up on my Twitter page every now and then. And on there, the whole format for the show is, because some of the best conversations I've ever had have been when I've been playing video games with somebody.
Yes.
I'll be playing Call of Duty with the boys or Halo, and we'll go off on a tangent. 3 hours later, it's like, oh my gosh, my soul feels scrubbed. I'm gonna go have a cigarette and lie down. This is great. But I said, I'm talking to my buddy Greg, and I'm like, you know what? We could do something with that, because I know that not only do we have a voice, everybody has a voice, but I'm like, I know that we have a voice, and I know that things are able to make sense to us in a certain capacity. And say there's somebody else out there who is kind of feeling fearful about speaking up and using their voice. Maybe they can throw support behind us, and we can be kind of like their weapon for them, or their tool of pushing against the craziness. And so we started up this show, and it was like, okay, this is great. I can go on here and I can say what I want to say. Because I told my wife, I said, all right, babe, I said, you've got to take the leash off me, because I've got to join this fight, because I'm needed here in this fight. And she goes, all right, you get the show started, leash comes off. And I went, okay, just so you know, and I need your word on this, once the leash comes off, you can't put Pandora back in that box. And she goes,
exactly.
Yes, you are. Once the leash is off, you are good to go. And I'm like, all right, thank you, my wife. And so we started the show, and it was like, all right, well, I said I wanted to be a part of it, so now it's time to actually make my voice heard. And so it'd been little things here and there, like the whole "Let's Go Brandon" thing, or I see some, like that video of that dude punching that lady on the subway a few weeks back. I'm like, look, if this doesn't drive you nuts to the point where you would have stood up and whooped this dude on the subway, then there was something wrong with you. And it was little things like that. And so when I saw the Rittenhouse thing pop up, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to live my life in fear. and I'm not going to be worried about losing out on a career because somebody disagrees with me taking a stance for truth.
Amen to that.
And so I went, this is the best, most insightful coverage I've seen on this. Check it out. And I fired it off into the aether.
I'm
And
100% correct in doing so.
People went nuts.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm very much the kind of person where if I craft a message, or if I craft a post, or if I craft a blurb or something, I say all I want to say in however many characters I'm allotted, and then I fire it off. I won't go back and look on it. I typically don't even respond to comments, whether they're in favor of or against or neutral. I don't. I might like a comment or I might retweet something, but I typically don't re-engage because I'm like, I said all I wanted to say there, and especially if people are going to hate on it, I'm like, no sense in trying to feed the trolls, as it were. But for 48 hours, it was just dog pile. As so many of the people in Twitterland saw, there were a couple of prominents over at Funimation that jumped on it initially from the beginning. And honestly, I think that probably gave it more visibility because they have huge followings. So I got people from whichever tribe coming and jumping on me and telling me I'm a terrible human being. And somebody's like, "Oh, you're not just a villain on a show; you're a villain in real life. Get out of our community, asshole!" I'm like, "Oh man, this is great. Oh my goodness. Count it all as blessing when you are reviled and slandered, saith the Lord." But my wife, so like the first time when a couple of years back when I was like really wanting to just get going on it, she was pregnant at the time. So you've got heightened emotion, heightened everything, heightened just sense of awareness, and you got those mommy instincts. And so she's like, "I can't handle this right now. I'm trying to incubate a human. Like, don't do anything to mess this up for us." And so this day, she walks in, and this is, I think, one day into the mess recently with the Rittenhouse post, and she's like, "Babe," she's like, they're dogpiling you online, and I hadn't even seen yet. So I pop on there, and I'm like, "Whoa, my gosh, 10,000 engagements already! Oh, and the hate's still coming." I'm just scrolling through, just giggling to myself. She's over here like, how is this funny to you? We could lose it all." I'm like, "No, this is great. This is amazing." And I'm just teeing like a doofus. 48-hour mark came up, and I'm sitting there on the couch doing some work. I think it was engineering I think I was working on an audiobook that we were doing together. And I'm just sitting there on the couch, just doing my thing. And I think I'm like the listening portion here. So I'm sitting here with my little fidget cube and I'm listening. And then my phone goes off. I look down. It's my buddy Greg, and he says, "Dude, people are coming to your defense online." I go, "What?" So I pop over there and I see the community. And I don't know if it was just people that have also felt stifled or just reached a breaking point or what, but I see the other side of the community just come in like a bat signal got turned on, and it was just like, "We're going to war." It was like watching the 300 make a phalanx and just push the Persians off the cliff into the sea. It was amazing.
Oh yeah.
And you're actually, I'm looking at the chat here. You're absolutely right, Randy. Twitter is not real life. And little side note, then I'm going right back. The idea that people go onto Twitter or on any kind of social media platform and they say the most outlandish things is one tragedy. But an even bigger tragedy is for that same person to assume that their online persona is somehow separable from their real life personage. The two are one. You cannot separate the two. And so when they act like garbage online and then they get together with friends and their friends are like, "Yikes." And they're like, what happened? "Hey, we're friends. What are you doing?" Like, "Yeah, well, you said a whole lot of inflammatory garbage online and you made some anti-Semitic jokes. What was that all about?" They're like, "Oh, that's just online." No. That was you. Twitter is almost like being drunk, where they say the words of a drunken man are the thoughts of a sober one. That's what Twitter is.
Oh, absolutely.
Because people have the anonymity to sit here and be a little keyboard warrior without the threat of being punched in the face immediately for saying just banana stuff.
Right? It's like that quote, like everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah, thank you, Mike Tyson. Thank you, Mike Tyson. But it was like that. And so, like I said, I don't know if people reached their own brink and they're like, I'm done with this. Damn it. I'm taking the headphones off and I'm going to go crazy. Well, they came back. But not only did they come back at the opposition, they came back with such eloquence. Like I was reading some of the conversation back and forth, and on one side it was just like, caveman, I hate VA who has his own thoughts, and then it was our side. It was like, well, sir, I find your argument mobily obose on the one hand, and on the second hand, I find you as trite as a raven with a writing desk. It was like watching Godzilla smash an anthill. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, at this point, I really don't think I'm ever going to be back in Funimation, and that's okay. I put up a post a few months back, related to a separate little incident that I can get into as well tonight.
For sure.
And at the end of that little post I put up, I said, you know what, if this is it for my VO career, at least in the capacity that I've been enjoying it up to this point, then so be it. I had a great ride. I had a lot of fun. I got to check literally everything off my voiceover bucket list, and I'm okay with that. And so looking at the chat go off for those 48 hours, I'm like, you know what? Let's have some fun with this. Not that I'm trying to just stir the pot, but if they want to paint me as the bad guy, then let's at least go down with some noisemakers and some party snaps and some kazoos. So
that's the thing I really enjoyed about watching you handle that situation, because there's so many people that would just quickly post this boilerplate apology bullshit and be like, "Oh, I'm so ashamed in my," but no, you're not fucking ashamed. You're not fucking ashamed at all. Like, just own it. Just own it. Like in the industry, in some industries, they call that heel heat. I am perfectly fine being the villain.
Yes.
Hate me. Go for it. I don't care. Like that. Just like more eyes on me. Like you were getting top heel heat for just posting support for Kyle Rittenhouse and sharing his stream. Like that to any company is like, wow, okay, that guy's getting eyeballs, like that guy's getting attention, because you have, not only do you have people that are just like, you're the worst person, literally like Neo-Hitler, and then you have like these people coming up and defending you now, and like all of these, and the people that are attacking you don't have money. Let's just get that out of the way right now. They're broke, they have no job, they have no life, they sit at home on Twitter and just take pot shots at everybody 24/7 because that's it. Thank you, Dean Domino, for the Dean Domino 25 for the super chat. Great stream, good guest. Question for guest: how would you rate Nick's impression of Kyle's lawyer?
Honestly, that Nova Scotian lilt that he's got, man, he does that so good, because he's kind of got like the whole speaking from your nose thing really down. So he's like, Your Honor, I think it's time that my client step down from the back. Maybe we go get some. I can't do it as well as he can, but I love that impression so much.
Well, I think it's all in nose, because Nick has a pretty big one. So
my God, yeah. If I took both my fingers and did like this, maybe I could, get something approximating what Nick can do. But no, I love it. And when I'd hear him like rip on Binger and stuff, just the jokes that came up there, because I mean, you got a panel of 10 to 11 people who are just like to the nine cerebral studs, and the rapid fire nature of the jibes. Oh, I loved it.
Oh, it's so good. Like, it's pretty sharp stuff. Now, I will tell you one thing, because like I was very, like, I wouldn't say involved, but I was very like interested and very like read up on the whole Vic situation back when it first started going down, mostly because at the time I was a media coordinator for a convention that was very interested in inviting him, because we were going through very much the same stuff. We had a group of people that just anything we did, if we took a piss on a street corner, they would be posting it everywhere. They would pop out of a bush and be taking pictures. Like, so I understand the degree of how psycho these people can be. So we were going to have Vic, because initially when the stuff came out, it sounded pretty intense, pretty scary stuff. But then when I found out that IO9 had modified his answers to their article and cut out and basically trunicated a bunch of his answers to make him look worse, I'm like, okay, there's some meat behind this. And then, like you, I stumbled across Nick on the internet, found him covering this, and I'm like, okay. And then he interviewed Shane, the infamous shoe-eating Shane, who that man gives the worst interview on the face of the planet. It is so funny. It is hilarious. painfully hilarious. But I watched that interview, and that convinced me. I'm like, no, Vic's innocent. Like, I don't care. I don't like. You have this man speaking against him. There is no freaking way on the at all that this guy is like saying anything of fact. So like, I did a bunch of research into it. Literally couldn't find anything outside of the fact that and for the record, folks out there that are watching this, I had Ron Toye on this show not once, not twice, but 3 times. I interviewed him 3 times on this show, and I tried to give him as much of a fair shot as possible and let him talk and let him say his side of the stories and everything else like that. Even he, like I still have it clipped. Even he had like a physical reaction when I brought up the fact that all 3 of the stories that apparently that led to Vic's termination came from Monica. They all came from one person. And like they didn't speak to anybody. They didn't call anyone. They just basically took it as face value and then just tossed it out. So like when Vic came to Kitchener Comic-Con, and I actually had a chance to sit down and have dinner with him and talk with him. And basically give him a heart to heart, because I know he's very Christian, like he's very religious. I'm not. Like I'm pagan. Like I'm as far away from Christianity as you could possibly steal.
Sure.
So we had that chat, and I told him, it's like, look, Vic, I understand. Like you're a man of faith. These people are trying to rock you from your faith. They're trying to take what little you have left, and make you question make you question your faith, make you question your God. It's like, look, this stuff happens for reasons, right? Like God never, like as much as I'm not religious, I do read up on a lot of this stuff. God never gives you more than you can handle, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's 100%. And I told Vic straight up, like that company did not deserve to have you. You are better than that company as a whole, as by yourself. So being there, it makes you lesser of a talent. And I think very much the same for you as well. I think that company holds people back. I think it's a leech. I think it pigeonholes people and holds back people that don't kiss the ring of certain individuals. And I think that you have much better of a chance to be a voiceover artist or an actor, flat out, just not being associated or not being tied or leashed to that company. I'll say that.
Those are kind words. You humble me. It's the nature of entertainment that there is such an allure for so many people. And I'll admit, I had stars in my eyes back when I was first considering just being a professional actor. And now I'm going on like my 11th year inside the professional circuit. And it's had plenty of ups and plenty of downs, but it on the most part, on the whole, it's been pretty good experience. But it is such the nature of the entertainment biz that you really do, in a lot of respects, have to set aside your integrity.
Yeah.
And it sucks because like I finally came to the decision that, if doing a job means that I have to sacrifice who I am and what I truly care about and what truly means something to me, then that job is not worth having.
Absolutely.
It's like, it's the same thing can be said for you have a collective of friends. And if you can't be open and honest with those friends, even about the really hard issues, like those 3-4 in the morning talks where you're sitting there with a couple of beers and you're like, yeah, this is how I feel. This is my heart. I've set it on the table here for you to now either smash with the hammer or cradle it gently and say, hey, let's work through this. It's like, if you can't be honest with people, because they're going to leave you, you don't need those friends. And
exactly.
So much of entertainment, it comes down to people just sealing up, not saying what they need to say, not doing what they need to do, not taking a stand when they should take a stand. And you'll find that if you really do have a passion about something, so long as you're operating from a basis of truth, where you're not just living solely off your emotions as though those are the most real things that have ever existed, but you're listening to your emotions, but you're letting your mind actually do the right thing with those emotions. You're letting yourself be targeted in what you say, speaking surgically. If you operate from that method of thinking and being, you will find that you're going to lose people. But the longer that you don't say what you need to say based in truth, those words stay inside you and they just threaten your life. It's like poison.
You lose yourself at that point.
Yeah. And you'll find that the longer you don't speak the truth, the longer that you don't speak out and share what is really inside your heart, the more garbage people will be in your life. The more just wretched human beings will be around you because you've not made a firm enough stand on where you are for them to make a decision beyond just, he's cool to be around with or she's cool to be around with. You haven't made a firm enough, essentially, what's the word? You haven't given them a firm enough and solidified enough picture of yourself for them to go, okay, yay or nay. So if you do speak out, yeah, you're going to lose people, but you'll find that the people that stick around, those are the ones that you really want to stick around. Those are the ones who really care about you, and those are the ones who aren't going to just take your ideas and throw them down and stomp on them. They may not agree with you, but at least they'll give you the time of day to share what you have to say, and they might say, cool, I agree with you here and here, but what about this? And then you can have real dialogues, real conversations, because if we can't communicate without having to take into account all these myriad of factors that politically correct people have to just keep a Rolodex of in order to not offend somebody, if we really, really, really tried to do all that, accounting for everything, our conversations go like this. Hi, how are you?
How are
good.
insert pronoun here?
I am also fine. Good. I'm good. No, I'm well.
It'd be like those alien comics, right? Like the ones where
yes.
This being is also adequate at this time.
Yes, I found this thing. It's vibrating. It turns out to be a cat. But yeah, that was, you'll find that so much inside entertainment, and really just in the creative sphere in general. There's a lot of internal pain because people aren't being true to themselves.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, this whole new bout, like, I found the whole thing just very, very funny. I just got a lot of kicks out of it. I thought it was hilarious because the idea that one collective of people can have an opinion or their own thoughts on something. It's like, okay, fine. You can have your thoughts, have your opinions. That's cool. That's an idea. Great. But then the idea that somebody who has a differing set of thoughts and opinions not being allowed to have those thoughts and opinions, and not only that, not even being allowed to give voice to them, just in opposition, simply to have a conversation, that's for the birds. You can't live that way. But that's how so many people want to act online. And inside this world right now where secularly everybody's all about tolerance, it's like, okay, so I guess you can tolerate any set of ideas so long as they line up exactly with what you think, exactly what you believe. And if not, then you're a racist, bigoted, sexist, homophobe. Like,
exactly. Well, it's like
it's unlivable.
It's why I smile when I saw that that you used the Captain America picture, the Captain America quote. That's something that I tapped into when doing the convention. I posted that when people were losing their minds when we announced Vic. And it's just that quote is just so powerful. It's plant yourself next to the river of truth like a tree, and when the whole world tells you to move, you say no, you move. Like that is like 100%, because when you're dealing with people who don't stand up for their morals, who don't stand up for themselves, then what do they stand for? They don't stand for anything. And like one good friend of the show, creator of Earthworm Jim, Doug TeNapel, who is also very, 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 very fundamental Christian.
Doug is awesome.
And like I've been on his YouTube channel. We've talked, again, like diametrically opposed on a bunch of different things, but we can have a conversation like a human being, like constructive conversation, and have mutual respect for each other. And it's one of those things. It's like a big thing that people don't like about Doug is that he is like sturdy in his points. When he's talking about something, when he's arguing something, he doesn't give ground, he doesn't bend. He just he'll stand and argue his point. Whereas most of these individuals online, they're so soft, and they don't have any roots in anything. They don't have anything that they can stand back on solid ground and argue. So they just crumble. And they get mad
Yeah.
because they have to put effort into it.
That's the thing right there. They get mad because they lack the emotional fortitude and just the common sense to be able to not only deal with that, but be able to concoct the next thought that they can then articulate to even try and contribute to the conversation. It's like if you don't have at least a firm platform that you can stand on, a firm rooting in truth that you can call to speak
Absolutely.
from, then your feet are literally planted in midair.
Yeah.
You don't even, if you're so wound up in trying to be politically correct, and you're so wound up on trying to make sure that every single thing that you say is somehow inoffensive to every single person, then you find very quickly that words lose their meaning. And if you live from a relativistic framework and you live your life wanting to be claiming full bodily autonomy, even just ignoring all the Judeo-Christian values that our country was built on, which are still running, they still run in the back of our minds, whether we believe it or not. It's like, if you want to try and say you want full autonomy, you want to be politically correct, you want to never offend anybody, and you want to be on the right side of history, then with all that knocking around inside your head, you cannot definitively say one thing is, one thing isn't. This is true, this is not true. I am this, I am not this. You literally can't make any definitive statement about anything. There's no objective truth at that point. It's all completely relativistic. And if people want to go into this whole kick of my truth is my truth, yours is yours, like there is no your truth, there is no my truth, there's only the truth.
There is only the truth. Yes.
Yeah, and you can't live, and that's why you see so much anxiety in people these days, because they don't have any kind of foundation. Because one day, oh, I guess I'm supposed to hate this now. Oh, I can't hate that anymore. I have to accept that. Okay, good. Next day, okay, now we're back to hating it. Wait, are we still hating it? No, we're not hating that anymore. Okay. Oh, and I've got to hate this and that. Oh, you're being pulled in so many directions.
Yeah.
It's like, take your stand, plant yourself, like you said, as a tree, and say, no, you move. I've drawn my line in the sand. This is where it stops. And this is what I'll put up with. This is what I won't.
Exactly. Like people need to have that, because like, how can you have a moral stance on anything when you're not even standing for anything? It's constantly moving targets that you have to go towards.
That's the other thing. The moving target and the moving goalpost idea. It's because so much of what gets pumped, whether it be through the media or entertainment or even just time killing, it's so immediate. It's so instant. We've all got this Black Mirror in our pockets. You have access to everything in a heartbeat right there. So the idea of having to put in an effort or work for something, work for a real and true and positive release of just that goodness for a job well done, it's just out the window for so many people. Because having to take a stand and having to speak truth and having to be true to yourself and what you really do believe, it's hard. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
But it's so rewarding. Oh my gosh. You find that you sleep better if you tell the truth, in so much as, like Jordan Peterson says, in so much as you don't ever willfully lie. You sleep like a damn baby. Your dreams are a whole lot less plagued by what's going on. Like, here's a little insight into the machinations of my mind. So those 2 years leading up to this whole fiasco that happened last month, I've been having dreams after dream after dream where my teeth they're rotten. They're absolutely rotten, and they're like dog fangs, and they're in so much pain. And inside the dream, I'm literally ripping my own teeth out of my head just to alleviate that pressure and that pain. And I find, even though it was painful to yank the tooth out, as soon as it was out, so much relief came and so much pressure came. I'm like, what does this mean? What is this? What is this dream? But I had that recurring over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And I now know that kind of anxiety and that kind of buildup, that kind of just that need to just get it out, that was because I was not saying what I needed to say, and I was not speaking up when I needed to speak up, and I wasn't defending the defenseless like I used to back in the day. And that knotted me up so much interpersonally inside my head and in my heart that I couldn't sleep. I had to take sleeping pills to go to bed, because otherwise I would lie awake at night thinking of all the battles that I could be winning right now for somebody else, thinking of all the things that I could do to stand up for somebody else who
Yep.
maybe doesn't have the strength that I do, maybe doesn't have all the words that I do, maybe doesn't have the direction that I do, but I could help that person realize that, hey, your voice is valuable. Your thoughts, maybe we don't align on every single thing, but I value what you do think and I value what you have to say. Like, you don't have to respect my opinion, just like I don't have to respect yours. I can respect the fact that you have opinions, and you can respect the fact that I have opinions, but we don't have to grant respect mutually. We can have at least enough respect for ourselves, though, to talk about said opinions in a dignified and, non-cavemanish way, and we can both agree to disagree on what we don't think works or what we do think works,
Yeah.
and then we can go, get witch in a beer.
Yeah, and that's a universal push right now, because I felt very much the same thing. Like, I felt when I went through, like, originally my individual cancellation, even before cancel culture was a thing. I used to be part of a LARP, and I was brand new to the scene, and people had been there for many, many, many years, and they pay your dues, blah blah blah, and you'll get like you have to be an NPC, you have to be a nobody for years before you can get recognized by plot. I was an interesting person. I was a good actor. So I managed to get the attention of the plot team very, very quickly, which pissed a lot of people off. Which it's why, like, I see parallels in your situation with Funimation. Like, you got a really big role relatively early in your career with Funimation, which likely ruffled a few feathers with some individuals. But that's not your fault for being talented. Like, it's not your fault for being a fit. So, like, when I had my issue, like, years and years ago, I had someone make false claims about me, and nobody believed me. Even my friends who had been friends with me for a long time, they even took pause. And it's like, I was in a very, very dark situation, ended up pulling through it by myself. I didn't have a support network. I didn't have a support group. I basically had my friends, my hobbies, everything that I had, like, all my passions just ripped away. And that put me in a very unique spot, because after I recovered from that, I said, I can't stand by while that happens to other people. And I saw it happen to a friend of mine. I stepped in and I fought on his behalf and fought on the event's behalf. I saw it happen with Vic Mignogna. I stepped in. I fought on that behalf. I saw it happening to Doug TeNapel. I stepped in, fought on his behalf. Like, they don't ask me to do these things, and I'm sure you know this too. It's like, you don't need to be asked to do this stuff. It's just stuff that you feel it. Yep. You feel it in your person. I did the same thing for Quentin Flynn. I stepped in and I covered that situation. And it's not that you want to do it to get the recognition. You do it because it's the right thing to do.
Exactly. That is so 100% correct. Like, so much of what I do isn't because another little, I guess, insight into my mind. Even when I got into acting, I didn't do it because I was hoping to get rich doing it. I did it because I am compelled. Yes. Whether I'm making you laugh, wince, smile, cry, whatever, I do it because it's this need. I have to do it. I have to create. I love it. It's what I do. And to your point, with you do something because it's right, not because you have to. It's cathartic in a way, because even though you may take your lumps for it, you still know that you did the right thing.
Exactly.
You still know that you said the right thing. You still know that somewhere out there is an appreciation in just by the bucket load for what you either did or said. Even though in the immediate it feels like so many people are just dumping on you, it was still the right thing. And we have consequences to everything, whether it's a good consequence or a bad consequence.
Exactly.
Still won't change the fact that it was the right thing to do. It's like the idea of socialism. It's like, okay, just because you and I gang up together and say, hey, we're both going to steal Greg's money. We say it's okay. We're just going to agree to do that. So we're going to steal his money. It does not make it okay. It's still stealing Greg's money. Just because we've all agreed that that's how we're going to play our game from now on doesn't make it right.
Exactly.
But yeah, if man, and as hard as it is to speak up when we do see those just egregious things happening, because whether it's fear over losing out on friends or losing out on work or being ostracized by your community or alienated by people that you once look up to, for whatever reason that keeps you from doing it, you will still have that pinch in the back of your head for not speaking up. You'll have that little needle in the back of your mind that just niggles away at you because you're like, oh, I know I'm not being true to myself. I know I'm not being honest with myself here. Because honesty doesn't just boil down to what we say. It also boils down to how we act. It's like, am I living honestly? Am I acting from an honest place? Is my modus operandi geared to not contradict the message that I am speaking? Because I know you know enough of the Bible to know this, but Paul tells us inside his epistles that we are justified by faith, meaning that we're saved by faith. Even the good Lord says, I cannot myself pluck you from my hand. But then James goes on to say, however, now that you've got, and I'm paraphrasing, now that you have your faith, that you're justified by it, what are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
Because that's where you get the great line. It comes, faith without works is dead, which means, okay, you're justified by faith, so now do something with it. Do something that shows that what's inside of you is worth living for. Do something that shows that what's inside of you is worth believing in. Do something that shows that what's inside of you is worth sharing with somebody else, because, damn it, you can make your world beautiful if you will it to be.
Exactly.
But it's hard.
It's
gotta
hard.
Take the lumps.
It's a universal thing, though. Like I call it the universe reaching out and slapping people and everything else like that. But this is what it is. It's if you're in a situation that is toxic for you, that is poisonous, that is destroying you as a person, that's taking away your identity. So like I say the universe will do things to say, hey, maybe you should do that. And then the kick in the pants becomes, a kick in the head. Eventually.
Yeah, it's like Joker when he says, you gotta, at this day and age, you've got to hit people over the head with a sledgehammer, and then you find you've got their strictest attention.
Exactly. It's like, but it's the same thing for people, for your, like, I'm sure for yourself with God, is that you're going to find insight into things that happen to you. And this is stuff that is meant to happen. Like, and anyone out there that knows this, it's like, if something is meant to happen, it's gonna happen whether you like it or not. There's just varying degrees of pain that's gonna come along with it.
Yeah. And for every test that we fail, we are doomed to repeat it again until we pass that test. Exactly,
because we're meant to go down certain routes. We're meant to get to certain destinations. Now, the way that we get there could vary. Absolutely.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
Like I told Vic when we were in the convention, walking to dinner, I said, Vic, for yourself, God put you here right now to have this conversation with me, they put us together to talk. Like, the universe put me here right now to talk with you. And our situations, had this happened 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been in a situation to talk about it. I'm in a situation to talk about it now. And you're in a situation to listen to it. And so, like, it's the same thing, like you and I connecting right now. It's like all of these things are pulling together because something out there is saying, okay, these things need to coalesce. These things need to come together. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of people out there right now that are doing the opposite thing because they're giving into that fear, that pain. They're not happy with themselves. They're not happy with their lives. They're not happy with the fact that they, didn't go out there. Maybe they had kids too early. Maybe they didn't have kids at all. Like, there's a bunch of things that people, they're just festering in regret, and they try to take it out on people. I see a lot of it, like, as someone who's not religious, I see a lot of it is attacking people who are religious and who have faith, because it seems like the people who have faith, you have that to fall back on, kind of. It's like, okay, you know what? I at least have faith. I at least have faith in God or whatever else. I can just lay back and real, like, eyes closed. I can trust that the path set for me is the best path. You have people who have cast aside religion or faith for whatever reason that are living in ambiguity, and they don't have anything in terms, like, when you replace faith with morals and things you stand for, then you at least have something to fall back on and say, I have a solid platform I can stand on. When you don't have either, then you turn into this weird little, like, social media gremlin that goes around and tears people apart.
Yeah, and like it's as much as too much to their chagrin for people who do act that way. That not only is that existence unlivable, but you can't even maintain
Yeah, it's not
like fear,
sustainable.
much like rage. Yeah, it's their emotions that will eventually burn you out if you don't burn them out. And so many people, it's like they ride that high
Yeah,
of that endorphin dump, just being a part of something. Like that's what I've found that has been so unnerving with the advent of social media is there are so many people on there that they just want to feel seen. They just want to feel recognized. I just want to feel like they're a part of something. And if recognition as being a part of the group means that they have to go and be incredibly cruel to somebody or be incredibly derisive to somebody, man, they'll do it because darn it, that high school popularity contest is still in full swing and they just want to be heard. They want to be a part of something. But it's like, okay, be a part of something. We all have to be a part of something. Choose something with some merit. Choose something with some value. Choose something that wants to see goodness inside the world
yeah,
for the sake of goodness, not just because you're trying to impress somebody who likes you, half as well as you deserve them to like you, and probably doesn't even know that you exist beyond your persona online.
and
It's like
it's
you guys are never going to get together and
it's
hang out
even
outside
worse.
this madness.
Like it used to be bad when it was like, a group of people fighting over one person's attention. Now you have an entire world fighting over
Oh
one
my
person's
goodness.
attention, and
Yeah,
like it's
have you seen?
yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, have you seen the movie The Social Dilemma?
No, I haven't. Not yet.
Oh man, check that out. It's on Netflix. Fantastic. You're absolutely right. It's like not only is one person trying to fight for your attention, but it is the entire world. And us as people, we become the currency. We become the
Yes.
commodity. We become the thing that is literally having to pry our eyes away from everything around us because it's ads and it's alternate lifestyle this and it's hey, come try these 5 new ways to a better sex life over here. And it's hey, here, come be a part of this subculture of people that wants to go torch buildings. It's just constant, constant, constant.
It's so strange, and like you said, it's not sustainable. Like I know there is
Mm-mm.
somebody on Twitter right now that was mentioning the Vic situation. I'm gonna be bringing this up a lot because it's relevant to a lot of stuff that we're talking
Sure,
about. But
sure.
he was saying it's like it's been almost 3 years and people are still going on about this, and he doesn't understand. He can't fathom it. He's like, how can this be on for so long? And the simple fact of the simple fact is that these people don't exist unless there is something for them to attack. Like, look at Gamergate. That's
Yes.
still being brought up. They're making a TV
Oh
series
my,
out of that for Pete's
oh
sake.
my
Like,
gosh.
like how much can you milk this cow? Seriously. Like it doesn't make any sense. But people continue to push it. And because they don't exist outside of that.
Yeah. No, that's such a great segue for this next little bit
Yeah.
because this is like when I first got canceled,
Yes.
um, and oh gosh, so this would have been let's see 2020 is when it happened. So I guess October of last year.
Okay.
Height of quarantine, height of lockdown. Tiger King is king. Well, we're all at home and whatever regardless of whatever news source people are getting their information from, it was a time where everybody and their mother was online. That was our only way to just reach out to people, to just stay in contact. And so you're seeing all kinds of conflicting information, all kinds of different opinions or different facts or different fact checked facts, and you're seeing so much stuff. It was so hard to sift through all that garbage to find that one vein of truth. But if you really sat hard and you really looked for, you could find that little thread of truth, trace it to where its logical outcome was. And with all that, there was, I don't know if you saw this, but there's this video that popped up, and it was this coalition of doctors, and they were at the Capitol, and they were speaking about different kinds of treatment that they had found to be really effective for treating COVID-19.
Yeah.
Um, they were talking about like hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah.
They were talking about antibodies, which is now being used in large supply to, treat this illness. I had seen that on there, and I thought, wow, this is such a message of hope, because up to this point it had been 10 months of nothing but fear, fear. It was like
Yes.
literal fear porn when you turned on the news.
Fear mongering.
And
yeah.
just like people can be addicted to outrage, they can also be addicted to that fear too.
Absolutely.
Whether they realize it or not, it's like, it's like,
It's
ooh,
a drug.
tell me the next that I need. Yeah, it's almost, it really almost is like a drug. It's like, ooh, tell me the next thing that I need to be afraid of. Ooh, tell me the next food service that I got to work with, the next grocery delivery service that I can work with, so I can just stay inside and never see my friends ever again. Yes, make it easier for me to not have to go out into the world and face this fear anymore.
Yeah.
But that was how it was being treated. And then if you were a person who had a message of hope, man, you got smashed down immediately. And they would say, oh, you're presenting misinformation, which I hate that word. Misinformation, let's just call it a lie or truth. Like this,
Exactly.
misinformation to try and soften the big F word, or excuse me, the big L word lie. It's dumb. But inside that whole thing, I was watching this coalition of doctors, and they were like experts in their field. They've been in the career for, I don't know, some of them probably decades.
Yeah.
And they're presenting their findings like, yeah, I've treated X hundred number of patients with these things. It's working. I haven't lost a single patient. It's like, wow, this is fantastic. So I heard that message of hope, and I shared it on my Facebook. And we knew back then that it originated in Wuhan. We knew that.
Yeah.
We know now definitively that it originated in Wuhan.
Yeah.
Even Dr. Fauci, yesterday, there was a video floating around where he's like, it wasn't the original Wuhan strain. It was something different. Or this is the Wuhan strain. So something like that. So it's like, okay, well, there it is. Like, do you want to keep saying that I'm sharing propaganda? Because now it's coming from the horse's mouth. But I shared the video, and I said something along the lines of what these doctors are saying about combating and treating the Chinese coronavirus sounds really hopeful. Check it out.
Yeah.
I didn't say if I was in favor of it. I didn't say if I was vehemently against it. I left it up to people. I was like, hey, give it a look and make your own mind up. But what I'm seeing and hearing sounds really, really hopeful.
Yeah.
Well, the community of friends that I had on Facebook, a lot inside the entertainment world, man, they just went nuts. That was the first dog pile on.
That was,
and it was
the first warning sign.
Oh man, it was friends and family and colleagues jumping on. And I didn't know this when I shared the link, because I don't watch I have like my very specific news outlets that I go to, and if something new pops out, when I see somebody that's super, super compelling to listen to, like, yeah, I'll take a look at them. But usually I have my little clutch that I listen to.
Yeah.
Well, this was outside of that news bubble that I am in, which is a pretty large bubble. And it happened to be a Breitbart link that I shared. And I don't routinely watch Breitbart. I didn't really even know what Breitbart was. I didn't know who it was started by. All I saw was a video that was a still shot. These doctors saying, there was no one else's commentary. There was nobody else weighing in on what was being said. It was just, they filmed the doctors, and there was a little twirling bee in the bottom left. Well, it was from, I guess, Breitbart Entertainment or Breitbart News. I put that online, and everybody starts to dogpile on the fact that it was from Breitbart. And people are saying things like, oh, I can't even bring myself to watch it because it's Breitbart. I'm like, you won't bring yourself to watch a still shot of some doctors talking because Breitbart's the one that shared the link? And people are going, oh, how could you share this propaganda from Breitbart News? How dare you? You know that they're a bunch of propagandists. I'm like, I didn't see anybody from Breitbart talking on this video. I thought that this was just some doctors talking. Well, that was how the conversation kept going, with just people saying, I refuse to watch this because, I can't watch this because, I won't watch this because, I will not watch this because. And at the same time, they were taking shots. Somebody popped on there and like, it's coronavirus because that makes people racist toward Asians, which, I mean, like, show me a poll on that, because I'm pretty sure that's wrong. But the crowning moment of it all. Oh my gosh,
no one talks about that anymore.
Yeah, show me your stop Asian hate signs now. Like, are we still not fighting for people and their freedoms? Okay, all right, fine.
I mean, it's no longer like what, June, I guess, is the month, the designated month for.
I get it's no longer the summer of love from all
No.
last year, as they called it.
No. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
The crowning jewel on top of this just decadent enchilada of math was a friend of mine from the industry hopped on there and said words to the effect of, "I can't believe that you would share this racist ass shit. I expected better from you." And I'm like, hold up now. I'm not going to sit here and take this abuse, but I'm also not going to apologize for having a view and an opinion that differs from what you call to be couth or uncouth.
Absolutely.
So I sat there and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take this post. I'm just going to delete it. I'm not going to say anything about it, but I'm just going to delete it because I'm not going to sit here and take abuse. You know, if everybody's making it so abundantly clear to them or to me that they're not going to watch it or they just can't watch it or they won't watch it, then like, why leave it up? Why sit here and take the jab? So I deleted it, left it at that. Well, I texted my friend in the background. I said, "Hey, can we talk? I am not a racist." And they got back to me and they called me. I said, "Hey, what's up?" And I said, "Well, I'd like to clear the air here. You said you made some accusations. I am not a racist. And I'd like to explain myself."
Yeah.
And so we had this conversation, and they leveled up just a bunch of accusations at me, like, "Oh, you're a racist." I was called the worst kind of racist because I didn't know how racist I was. And I said, "Okay, so what did I say that's so inherently racist?" And they go, "Well, you call it the Chinese coronavirus." And I said, "Yes." And they go, "Well, you know how racist that is?" And I says, "Enlighten me." And went off on all the CNN talking points. And I said, "Okay, well, then are you aware that there's plenty of video footage floating out right now with together just montages of CNN, NBC, Fox News, every big news organization calling the China virus, the Wuhan flu, the Wuhan virus, the Chinese coronavirus, all these things. Like, are you aware that that was the tune that they were whistling just a couple weeks ago? And now suddenly it's racist to say that?" Well, I'm like, no, I reject that. It's not racist to say that because I'm calling this thing after its place of origin, just like I would call the Rocky Mountain flu, Rocky Mountain flu, because that's where it came from, or West Nile from its place of origin. It's like we don't just give these names arbitrarily. I'm calling it this because that's where it originated from. Yeah, and I had no intention to try and offend anybody's delicate sensibilities. It was literally, like I said, I saw a message of hope, so I shared it. Well, the person then says to me, they go, "You know what? You're the worst kind of racist because you don't know how racist you are in this city. You know, I have certain friends, and they're of a certain color persuasion, and they said I don't know when things are racist, so I asked them, and they tell me, and I believe them." And I went, "Okay, well, I just use my brain and my mind to decide, and I can make my own decisions without having to defer to somebody else who's marginalized on the fringes of society."
I mean, that is racist, though. Like, you know, going to your Asian friend and saying, "Hey, Asian friend, I know you're Asian. Is this racist to Asians?" That is racist.
Yeah, it's you. It's like, and even if it's like on like the lower end, it's a stereotypical thing to do because it's you just saying, "Oh, hey, you're of a certain ethnic persuasion.
Yeah.
You clearly must know all about X, Y, and Z. Enlighten me." And so I was like, I'm like, okay, well, that's weird that you have to defer to your friends in this whole thing. I reject that. And then I got called out for, "Hey, well, I noticed you didn't put up the BLM black square. I noticed
God.
You put up the Blue Lives Matter flag and the red light." And I said, "Oh, and the red lives matter and red lives matter. You know, don't forget the firefighters. I also put up the Army lives matter as well." And he said, "Why didn't you put up the black square?" I said, "Because I don't support Marxist regimes."
Yeah.
And so then I got told, "Well, you don't know what the real face of racism is." And I said, "All right, let me explain you a thing." And this was actually what I said in this long post that I put up about a month and a half ago. So my family immigrated to Puerto Rico from Spain. My father was born in Puerto Rico. You know, it was Commonwealth of America, of the USA. His whole family was more or less all his brothers and sisters born there. He lived there till he was about 4 years old, and then they immigrated to the States, lived in New York. Well, he was young. Um, his family became the target of racial violence from this black gang in the area where they lived in.
Oh
They didn't live in
no.
the best area to begin with, but they became the target of violence. This gang came over, shattered all the windows inside their house, and then they left to come back that night to kill everybody in the house and burn it down.
Oh my
So
God.
my grandmother had to pack up her 5 children, and they had to flee at 2 in the morning to never ever return to that home. They grabbed what few belongings they could, shoved them into a bag, and they left, and they never ever came back. Well, the new place they get to. Time goes by, they get targeted again for violence, and that time they had to move in the middle of the day. It was so bad.
Wow.
And now my father and his family lived through real racism, real racial violence. Being that my dad is Puerto Rican, I guess that makes me half Puerto Rican. You wouldn't know it by the color of my skin, because Puerto Ricans come in every single shade and every hair color.
Yes.
Not that matters what my race is. That only matters to the left and people who want to play identity politics. But my father lived through that.
Mm-hmm.
He lived through that to such a degree and such a nightmarish way that very few people can grasp. Like, unless you've had an actual physical fight or an altercation where you're fighting for your life, which I've had several, you aren't able to definitively say 100% that you know what being in a fight is like. Well,
Yeah.
if you haven't lived with this kind of racial violence, you don't get to tell me that you know exactly what that's like. I mean, you can sympathize and try and empathize, but you don't know exactly what it's like.
Well, I mean, like I've been in situations. The last thing I was thinking of, like I was waiting to cross the street one day, and I got sucker punched by a lady of the street that had just been walking around. She was clearly like not mentally well, but she just kind of just walked up and just like, I'm just listening to music, and she just like cold clocked me right across the jaw. I'm like, okay. The last thing I was thinking of is like, oh my God, is this a white person or a?
Like, hold on, what are your pronouns? Are you a POC? Do I just have to just cross my hands and let you finish?
Are you a
bludgeoning me to
POC?
death?
I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm going to call the police, and I am going to take a photo of this person so I could describe them to. Like, this is what I'm thinking of. Like, I'm not thinking of like, oh my goodness, is this like no. I'm thinking, first of all, self-preservation, and is this person continuing to attack me, or are they running away? And like how injured I am. Like the last shred of anything, it's like, were they Asian? Were they from like, no, I didn't care about that stuff. And again, like people they focus on the weirdest shit. It doesn't make any sense.
it seriously doesn't. But I finished telling my friend the story. I'm like, look, I understand the face of racism. I get it. My family has lived through it. I've been called every name in the book. I literally have. But like, look, as the old adage goes, as the little nursery rhymish thing, sticks and stones break your bones. Words are never gonna hurt me.
Exactly.
Well, words can hurt you, but I choose not to let them hurt me.
Exactly.
And like I said, I've been called everything in the book. I've had more fist fights than probably most people have digits on their hands and toes. Nothing I actually went out looking for. It was always me having to step in and intervene, or jump off a second-story balcony with a pair of brass knuckles and take down somebody who hurt one of my friends. But I tell the story, and there's silence. And then it was just summarily dismissed.
Yeah.
Words to the effect of, well, I don't doubt that's your family's experience, but this is different. I go, at that point, I was like, well, there's no making you see this. There's, I can lead a horticulture, but I can't make her think. There's no, thank you, feel free to use it. There's no me being able to impart to this person any more than I have, because much like the comments that I carefully craft before I say online, I've said all I've got to say. And I hate talking in circles because I don't like to repeat myself. If he didn't like like what I said the first time around, then why do I need to try and say it 4 more times? It's like if I'm playing charades and I'm acting something out and you go, is it a wolf? And I keep going, don't yell, is it a wolf 7 more times? Like, move on to something else.
Jackal,
So,
jackal, it's a jackal.
It's a jackal. It's dancing with wolves. Step on wolves. You know, step wolf. Yeah. But it gets dismissed, and I get told, well, just so you know. And then the person starts to laugh. They go, just so you know, if you thought you still had a career at Funimation, you are sorely mistaken, because this conversation's been going on about you for a while. I'm like,
oh, here we
that's
go.
Interesting.
Oh, here
that's
we
interesting
go.
because if you consider yourself my friend, I would really, really have hoped that you might have come up to me and said something along the lines of, I hear it said, but I reserve my judgment until I hear it from you. None of that.
Can't do
And
that.
this conversation's been going along around in the background by people who knew me or knew integrity, or at least had an idea of the integrity that I espoused to. Then I would have really, really hoped that somebody would have come to me and said, hey, I see you coloring outside the lines here. Care to clarify what's going on? None of that happened. None of it. So
Oh my goodness.
they said, yeah, your career in anime is done. Your career over at Funimation is done. And I said, oh, and don't worry. It won't come from me. This conversation will stay just between the two of us. And I'm like, cool. Didn't stay between the two of us.
No, of course.
Within a couple of weeks, I learned somebody else talking about the exact same talking points that I had a conversation with this person about. Then I said, well, I said, at this point, I'm like, I'm not going to try and make you see my side. I just went, okay. And they said, yeah, so just so you know, our friendship is effectively over. And I went, okay.
Yeah, good fucking riddance.
And they went, whoa. Yeah, they go, well, maybe one day you'll grow up. And I said, yeah, maybe. And they go, well, say goodbye to your wife for me. And I went, done. God bless, brother. Take care. All the best to you and your family. And then they hung up on me.
Wow.
And shortly thereafter, I'm not going to say who it was. Everybody loves Gav. Sorry. Like I said, I'll tell the story, but I don't like to gossip about people specifically. But shortly thereafter, it was just this sinking feeling, because I had made up inside my mind that this acting dream that I had to be involved in the anime world and do all this stuff, I was really simping hard for anime.
Mm-hmm.
And I had taken this chunk of my heart and locked it away inside this little cage, and it was dying to get out. It was dying to get out and be truthful to who it was. And I kept refusing it that right. And so it was like this icy pain. You know, for anybody who's had a panic attack, you get that blast in your chest. It's like, and you feel like you feel just crippled for that brief amount of seconds, and it hurts. And I was still directing at that time. I finished out the season of Hatana Illusion that I was directing on. I got to finish out the show Fire Force, which I was assistant director for, officially assistant. I got to finish out some of the last little bits of No Gun's Life and the episodes of One Piece I was on, and I haven't directed again.
Oh my goodness. Well, before, I want this is a topic I kind of want to dig a little bit in on. I don't know if it's my end, but Discord's just having an absolute heyday with your video feed right now. Is anything on your end dropping? Because I'm
no, everything looks great over here.
Okay, must be mine. I'm gonna try to do something real quick here. Be 1 second. See if I can.
I looked up at the YouTube stream. It all looks great too.
It looks good.
Chat's rolling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. No, it's just dropping frames on your camera, so I just want to make sure that this is really important stuff, and I want to make sure that we're getting it in full. So, really important stuff. All right, thank you. So yeah, that's so ridiculous. Like, so robots are rising up. So with Funimation.
Okay, I'm dropping here or there. Let me turn off my Wi-Fi on my phone real quick. Hopefully that's not doing it. Okay.
With Funimation.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I know you probably don't want to get into specifics because of that stuff. Like, in my opinion, truth is not gossip. If there are facts and you can back it up, that's not gossip. You know, in my opinion.
I agree.
If you have that, talk away. And because again, like you said, it's really important to bring this stuff to light, because these people, like, I say these people, what do you mean? What do you mean these people? But you have folks like this who infiltrate companies and conventions. I see it in conventions a lot, which why I when I run conventions, I have to really, really strictly screen the volunteers, because
Dude, you
have these people that come in, and they just come in just to sabotage and just to, spray shit everywhere. So when you have folks like this that come in and they say, oh, like you're never gonna, the people have been talking about you. It's like, why, first of all, is that allowed there? Because this is not the first time I've heard this. This is a number of times that I've heard this. I've heard stories about many different actors at Funimation. I've heard a lot of stories about the gossip rings and things like that, and the whisper networks, quote unquote, and how certain individuals that are involved with Okatron are allowed to do basically whatever the hell they want, while the rest of everyone's walking on eggshells. And I see, we just saw it recently, as today, as in today or yesterday, with certain individuals getting Vic removed from. He bought, I guess he bought a ticket to a convention in Los Angeles, and because he was invited to sign autographs at an exhibitor's table. An exhibitor went out, like a vendor, bought a whole bunch of items that were related to his characters that he played. And from my understanding, this is strictly my understanding. I haven't spoken to Vic. About it. But based on his recent video, he was going to go to that table and sign for free items that people bought from this vendor. And
just hang out and
just going to hang out and sign for people, because this vendor, I would assume, had some deal with him to come in and pay him or whatever else to be there, and he was just going to sign items for free. So when people found out that he was going to be there, there's a bunch of current Funimation voice actors that are going to this convention, and I've seen this happen at a bunch of other conventions that Funimation has been involved in. SAC Anime is another one. It seems that somebody, if not Funimation itself, is pressuring the conventions to not associate with people they don't like. And the convention pulled his ticket and barred him from going in, from my understanding.
That's so cruel on so many levels.
Unnecessarily
it's one
cruel.
thing. Yeah, it's one thing to try and come for somebody's job and their livelihood, which I would never fathom doing to a person. It's like when people were making the argument over the Summer of Love insurance. No, a large part of them don't, and you destroying and looting their place, that now means that they can't keep food on the table for their family and their kids.
Exactly.
But with the idea of trying to cancel somebody and tortiously interfere with their way of just making a living,
existing.
That's so vile on its face. But then to go to a place where they're showing up essentially for charity because they're being kind to someone, and they're like, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to talk to fans, I'll sign whatever they buy, like, let's have a fun time.
Yeah.
That's just trying to kick somebody when they're down.
Exactly.
That's fire at a picnic right there, is what that is.
So I know you hadn't been at Funimation very long, but you have more insight than literally anybody in here right now.
Sure.
Have you ever seen this stuff firsthand or heard about this stuff firsthand? I mean, you were there right at the height of the Kick Vic cancellation stuff.
Yeah. I was coming in right as that whole thing started.
Yeah.
I never saw anything. Like I said, I chose to just do a lot of watching, but never throw my 2 cents one way or the other.
Right.
I've never even actually met Vic Mignogna. I've seen him from afar, but I've never actually met the guy. All I know is what I've been told and what I hear, which I go really into. But yeah, it was such a quick moment that I had just gotten there before he had been taken off the roster. That no, I didn't see anything. I didn't even hear people talking about anything.
Wow. That's
it was.
Well, I guess they would look at. I mean, comparing you guys 30 years apart, I believe,
Hmm.
but comparing you guys in terms of the trajectory, they probably saw a lot of Vic in you, like being Christian, being talented, being like
Oh,
more
it's
attractive than
possible.
they are, and
Oh, go on,
being
go
being
on.
successful, right? Like you were rising the ranks pretty quickly, and like I guess like for them to have a whisper network about someone who like literally just joined, that's kind of bizarre in my opinion. Apparently they were
You
talking
know,
about you before you were even in the door.
it's so funny because one of the things that really meant a lot to me, um, it was when I was taking the class that Chris Rager offers,
Yeah.
and Ian Sinclair was there teaching for the first day, and it was all about just all about just acting in general and just being the character. And we went through all the little things that are written into the script, as an open mouth scream, or this is a clenched teeth laugh, or what have you. And one of the things that he said towards the end of it was, he said, if I can tell you guys one thing that you take away from here, is once you get through those doors, once you get where you want to go, be kind. Be kind to every person you meet, and never ever gossip. I said, if you do that, that will carry you than your own acting ability. And I've lived my life by that principle because, I serve a higher power. But it was really nice to hear that reinforced. And that really meant a lot to me to hear that. And so that's always the method of operation. And the the dark passenger, to quote Dexter, the dark passenger that constantly rides with me, that old guy that I used to be, that really super violent person that I used to be, um, chomps at the bit every now and then to essentially do to others what they've done unto me, or do
Yeah.
to others before they can do unto me. And I have to fight that daily
Yeah.
because I want to go back to being the darkness like I used to be. I mentioned fistfights before. I've fought for my life. I've had some of the grisliest encounters that would probably give people nightmares to really go into detail about. But I know that I have um, huge potential within me to do a lot of evil, but to choose, for the sake of goodness, to do good, or to not contribute to the gossipy conversation when other people are,
Hmm.
it's tougher to do because you want to be liked. You want to be looked at as being on the in crowd. You want to be like, oh yeah, we can sit here and bullshit around inside the lobby and talk about everybody as though they're not sitting right here, and it's fine because we do this. We just bitch. No, it meant a lot to me to hear that. To just hear, hey, it will carry you farther than your own acting ability, and I held on to that. And I think too many people out there feel that in order for their light to shine, they have to dim another person's light.
Yes.
And that is so tragic.
Yes.
Because going back to what I was told, from my friend who got us the start down here in Dallas, there's enough work out there for everybody. There really is. There is such an enormity of voiceover work, but you have to be willing, ready, and able to go out there and get it. And you're going to
Absolutely.
take your lumps, you're going to have your feast and your famine, but you've got to be brave enough to just go out there and just do it. Pull yourself up by your metaphorical bootstraps and just go out there and get it. And if you can, say you dig ditches. If you can dig ditches with a sense of humor and a smile on your face, all the better for you.
Exactly.
If you can be the best damn ditch digger possible, you dig them deep enough so if there's a tornado, like everybody can hide in that thing and nobody's getting sucked up and thrown through a bar somewhere out in the countryside. Awesome. Be that guy. Have your sense of humor. But you don't got to go and bemoan the other ditch diggers because, oh, you guys dig graves too? Pfft, that's for people who embalm bodies, you bunch of losers. No.
Yeah.
You can have what you want in life if you can name it, be brave enough to go out there and get it, and then know that you get to have that, and somebody else can have virtually the same exact thing. And you don't ever have to cross paths. You don't have to cross swords. You don't have to try and sandbag what they do, come for their family, come for their livelihood, kick their dog. You don't have to do any of that crap.
No. Don't have to. They choose to do that.
They do.
They
Way
choose.
too many people choose to insert themselves into situations, and then they go off all half-cocked as though what they bring to the table is the most intelligent thing that anybody's ever said since Othello. And usually they just end up making a huge ass of themselves. And then they're sitting here getting all defensive when people point it out to them as though they got to double down on being this little douchebag online.
Exactly.
You're like, all right, you chopped your legs off when you walked inside here. You can go ahead and end this now, and maybe you can, save a modicum of respect that we might have had for you. But people, they're addicted to that outrage.
Yeah.
So anybody out there listening, like, in all things, don't gossip. Don't poison people behind each other's backs. I want to look up.
Do it to their face.
Yeah. If you have a gripe with somebody, seriously, I would rather somebody come up to me face to face and say, you know what, I hear it said. Let's have a talk here.
Yeah.
And I've had plenty of conversations like that. And I find that to be incredibly respectful. Because it's not a common thing. Mm-hmm. It's not something that most people will just up and do because of that fear. And, if the person's your friend to begin with, and you guys have a good rapport and you've gotten on for years, then why wouldn't you have enough faith in that history to be able to go, you know what, I am certain that they would be able to handle a hard conversation of this nature. Exactly. One where we're not trying to talk over each other or cut in on each other or cut each other off, but one where we're genuinely interested in reaching an amicable resolve.
Yeah.
But people just assume, no, I'm going to get heat for this, so might as well just let myself believe that they're the monster everybody says they are. Mm-hmm. And I will cut them out, excise them from my life without giving them the opportunity to shed some light on what was said about them. Yeah. It's sad.
I want to thank Dean Domino for the $4.99. No gossiping at Funny reminds me of Don't Be Evil at Google.
Yes. Okay, here you go. Here's this is a poem I love.
Perfect.
It is a fantastic poem. This is shared to me first by a gentleman named Chuck Missler. God rest his soul, he passed away in 2018, but he was a Bible historian as well. And he went into like the science of the Bible and all the cool historical things going on. But he had a moment in his career where they lost everything. And when they were down, virtually all the friends that they had just kicked them while they were down. Everybody up and left. Everybody listened to all the gossip and just made those nails that were already dug in sink in a little bit deeper. And so this was a poem that really spoke to him when he was going through it. And it's called I Hear It Said. It is by Barbara Young. It says, last night, my friend, he says he is my friend, came in and questioned me. I hear it said you have done this and that. I come to ask, are these things true? A glint was in his eye, of small distrust. His words were crisp and hot. He measured me with anger and flung down a little heap of facts that had come to him. I hear it said you have done this and that. Suppose I have. And are you not my friend? And are you not my friend enough to say, if it were true, there would be a reason in it. And if I cannot know the how and the why, still I can trust you, waiting for a word, or for no word if no word ever come. Is friendship just a thing of afternoons, of pleasuring one's friend and one's dear self, greed for sedate approval of his pace, suspicion if he takes one little turn upon the road, one flight into the air, and has not sought you for your yea or nay? No, friendship is not so. I am my own, and howsoever near my friend may draw, unto my soul there is a legend hung above a certain straight and narrow way that says, dear my friend, ye may not enter here. I would the time has come, as it has not, when men shall rise and say, he is my friend. Has he done this? And what is that to me? Think you have a check upon his head, or cast a guiding rein across his neck? I am his friend, and for that cause I walk not over close beside him, leaving still space for his silences and space for mine.
That is very touching. That's very, very powerful. Like, wow. That's something that a lot of people really need to take in, I think, because I think a lot of these individuals, I mean, I see this at workplaces, right? You have the people that just are just superficial, they're friend in name only. They don't know what it's like to have someone who will be there through thick, through thin, do the difficult things, do the painful things, and stick with you, because that's what friends are supposed to be there for. They're not supposed to be there for convenience. They're not supposed to be there for, to be an ATM machine, or when it's fair to you.
Right.
It's friendship in many ways is much more work than an actual relationship with with a partner.
Oh, it is. It can be.
It can be. Like
Yeah.
that's really, really powerful stuff. My goodness.
It spoke a lot to me.
Yeah.
And so kind of going back to that first cancellation story, that was last
Yeah.
October.
Wow.
And
So
everything
recent.
has all but dried up, unfortunately. I've done a few things here and there with Okratron or with Funimation, and it's been great. Hasn't been like, the big things, since I was really on the up and up. I was starting to hit my stride. I got to star in the show A3. That's Act Addict Actors. Fantastic show about this theater troupe that's trying to save a dying theater. Really beautiful show if you guys haven't seen it. The art is incredible. The music's amazing. The story's awesome. The whole cast, like I said, I'm gonna sidetrack and then I'm gonna come back to it.
No problem.
Kind of how I said before, like I don't have to like everything about a person to admire what they do. I don't have to
Absolutely.
like everything that they run on their platform politically to decide that, hey, I like a few of the things and that's enough for me to vote for the person. Everybody in that cast is a hell of an actor or a hell of an actress.
Absolutely.
The directing team, the engineering team, like the people that I got to work with over at Funimation, they are some incredible actors. They are some of the best that I have ever had the privilege of working with.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts that I had the bad break that I did, but they still, in my book, when you stack them against some of the all-time greats like Jack Angel, who recently passed away, man, they measure up. And I feel very, very honored to have gotten to play with them. It was really, really special. And anybody who gets the opportunity, I hope it feels just as special to you. And I hope that you're able to separate out the hard things that you hear about some of your favorite pastimes not being quite what you thought they were. And I hope that you're able to just enjoy it for the simple act of being able to create.
Yeah.
But that being said, it did pretty much all dry up. Like I said, I haven't been there in a few months. But what I found that was very, very odd was even months later, almost a full year later, the issue was still getting talked about. Oh yeah, Eric Rolon, he had that Facebook post. Oh, you know what he thinks about such and such? My name would come up in conversation. People would be like, Eric Rolon? And some of my friends went to bat for me and said, yeah, actually, he's a good friend of mine, does this, 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 and this. We run a Bible study, we run a homeless outreach. We united people together when there was a pandemic and we were all stuck at home. Like, we do a lot of things. And not that I say that to try and toot my own horn,
Yeah.
but they went to bat for me. And this is like I said, almost a full year later. The conversations are still going on. The whispers are still going on, and it brought back up that same initial feeling, that same feeling of loss. Because it has been, it was my dream since I was 5 years old to be an actor, to do the movies, to be the next action hero, to be the next Keanu Reeves or Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And in I guess the anime voice acting world, it felt like that really just got snatched away. And so I felt that coming back up again. And I started losing sleep again. And I'm usually pretty good at compartmentalizing the things that are of supreme value in my life, and then the superfluous things that can just be cast aside because they are really inconsequential. This, man, it was like couple of nights just laying there, either watching the back of my eyelids or staring at my bookcase that's next to my bed, and just, not that I was trying to rationalize all that happened, because I'd already done plenty of that, but it was just the reliving of it, and the question inside my mind was, why are people still harping on this a full year later, as though the wounds are still so fresh in their mind, as though I personally went out to try and hurt them or try and be vindictive towards them. And so I cobbled together this big post that I had to get the words out. Like I said before, they stay inside you just like poison, and you just got to get them out. And so I sat there and I wrote out a series of little block texts that I knew were about as long as a tweet will allow. And then I posted them all up rapid fire, one after another, just on the same thread. I think it was like 10 or 11 messages. But it told the story of that initial cancellation and finding out how people were saying things about my back without even coming to me to, hey, can you clarify this point? Or, hey, can you speak out to this? I've heard such and such, but I didn't want to give into it until I heard from you. And I wrote all about that. I wrote about the conversation I had with my friend who divorced me and my family over a difference of opinion, a difference of belief, a difference of political persuasion. And
Unreal.
I wrote about my family immigrating from Spain to Puerto Rico and then to the States. I wrote about the violence that beset them when they lived in New York, the places that they had to go to try and escape that violence, the terror that they lived through. I wrote about, like, you know, some of the things that I've been through, and I ended it with that poem there. And my supreme hope, if I can inspire, if I do believe I have that ability, that capacity to inspire, my supreme hope is that anybody listening to this, or watching this, I hope and pray that you recognize that not only do you have a voice, but what you have to say is valuable. What you have to say is worth saying, so long as you are saying it from a place of truth. Not trying to be malicious, not trying to be savage, not trying to be biting and cutting for biting and cutting's sake, but trying to, instead of add to the noise, add to the conversation. You do have a voice. Your voice is powerful. You have so many thoughts and feelings, just like I have so many thoughts and feelings, and nobody can take that away from you. Oh, they might threaten your livelihood. They might threaten your friendships. They might threaten that you're going to lose family members. Okay. If you lose out on the friends because of something that some lunatic said, then were they really that close to you to begin with? Exactly. If a family member decides to call you such and such online and then block you on every form of social media, were they really that close to you to begin with? Because I'll tell you, being down here in Dallas, through all that turmoil, I like to take stock of my life every now and then and think, okay, if this didn't happen, that wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't have happened then, that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be right here. Because we can have a million things happen in our lives, good, bad, or in between. And if you're genuinely invested in trying to not just enrich the lives of those immediately around you, but those who you care most about, who might be states away, yourself included, none of it is without reason, and none of it is without meaning. All the blunders, all the bad things that in my life I thought were near misses, all the, the fights and all the moving to Florida and coming back and going to Nashville and destroying my life. If I hadn't gone through all that turmoil and all that hardship, I wouldn't have met my wife. Exactly. I wouldn't have a beautiful baby boy who's 8 months now. I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you, the lovely person that you are. I wouldn't be getting to engage with this community like I am if it weren't for the hard things.
Exactly.
And so don't discount anything. Don't discount anything, especially if you're trying to live from that truthful place and speak from that truthful place, because it all does matter and it all does mean something. And whether you believe it or not, so many people are watching.
Rolon,
now that we are in the human experiment of social media, so many eyes are on you and so many ears are open. And sometimes you may have just the one thing that you say that changes a person's demeanor and makes them step back and go, wow, I do have something more to live for. I have something more that I can build my life upon. To segue real quickly into a little story,
sure.
It can even just come down to just the way you act. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything. Like one of my longtime friends, back when I was still living in Rochelle, Illinois. This is probably my grade school era. We were at Sunday school one day at church, and this new kid showed up. And he was kind of quirky, kind of odd, but still really funny, really smart, like had good jokes. and he was kind of reserved. And so we were, kind of doing like the whole poke it thing. I think we were all like giving him a hard pat on the ass when he'd walk by and be like, like, good game, brother. And just kind of just barbing him a little bit. But he would just light up, and we're cracking jokes, we're having fun, we're playing. I'm probably like 12 or 13 at this point, and we're just having fun. And it didn't really mean much more than just having fun because we're just a bunch of little kids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, come to find out years later, we become very, very, very close at this point.
Yeah.
And he pulls me aside one day and he goes, Eric, I don't know if you know this. He says, I haven't told anybody this, so obviously you couldn't. But that following Tuesday, before I met you and your brother, I was going to hang myself. He says, I was going to kill myself because I didn't think I had any friends. I didn't think anybody cared about me. I didn't think anybody would miss me. I was going to write a note to my parents, leave it in my locker, and then I was going to kill myself before they got home. And he said, you and your brother and your friends just showing that kindness to me. And you didn't have to. He says, you just showed that kindness to me. You took me in, you razzed me, we cracked some jokes. We got on, we played games, we had fun. He says, just that alone, it gave me a reason to keep going. He says, I don't know how I could ever thank you for that. I said, man, just saying that's enough. Like, wow. So to anybody out there listening, you don't know how powerful your life can be, even if you aren't speaking, even if you're just living for more than just yourself, living for more than just today, living for something, standing for something, and not falling for anything.
Exactly. I have a couple comments that trickled in here for you and a couple questions. Folks, if the chat has questions, please feel free to submit them. I may miss them. If you super chat them, I'll generally read them right away, but if you put them in the chat, I'll try to get back to them. Dawn Wanderer tipped 690. Thank you so much, Dawn Wanderer. Eric, you have a great head on your shoulders. I'm glad you stood your ground, and you'll do just fine without Funimation. Let freedom ring.
Thank you.
Definitely have a lot of people out here that support you. Absolutely. We have a comment from or a question from Toyman99X. This is Stan Dolan, doxed. Stan Dolan. We have a question from him. When you arrive to the Funimation studio, do you have to be let in the building? Is his first question, and he's asking. Yes. Also, are there cameras in the lobby?
Yep. Okay. Yep. That place is like Fort Knox.
And he had another question. Would you consider auditioning with Sentai Filmworks?
I would. If the opportunity came up, yeah, I absolutely would. Oh. If my name wasn't so besmirched out there, if Bang Zoom had an open thing, yeah, I audition for them too. Because I still love the art. Yeah. Like I said, if I can make you laugh, wince, smile, cry, whatever, I'm compelled to do it. I love doing it.
And Milo the Gamer had a comment here. Eric's right. My uncle shot down my opinions regarding Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and the Star Wars trilogy. It broke my heart. That was regarding your comments from before there. And Morpheus is asking if you've seen redo of Healer, Poker, Hot Poker, or No Poker.
I haven't, but I'm inclined to say poker. Hot poker.
Hot poker. There you have it. My goodness. So yeah, folks, if you have any questions, I'll leave it open there. If you have any questions that hot burning questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat anytime. If you want me to read them right away, then super chat and I'll get the notification. I can read that right away. I do have an email from Gav. Gav is actually from Ireland, by the way.
Oh, serious! Awesome.
Tuning in from Ireland. So he has a couple questions for you here.
Sure.
He says, "Hello and greetings from Ireland. Eric, over the past several years, we've heard many rumors regarding the inner workings of Funimation. Can you tell us if there's a form of hierarchy based on fear and nepotism?" This is completely your opinion.
I'd say, I mean, in my opinion, again, I don't want to go too far into it, but as
Yeah.
with any job, there's of course a certain amount of nepotism. It really does come down to inside the entertainment field to who you know, and that's whether you're looking at music, you're looking at Broadway, you're looking at voiceover, or doing movies. There's who you know definitely plays a very large factor into it, and it's just the familiarity of having somebody that you know versus the unknown.
Right.
It makes it easy for directors to cast people that they know that can do the job, especially if they're really crushed for time, like doing a simuldub schedule. Sometimes it's like, "Oh, I just need to get this one thing done. I know this person can bang this out in 15 minutes. Let me just get them inside here. Yes, I know I used them inside the last 6 projects, but I don't have the time to spare right now." So yeah, there's a fair amount of that, but that goes without saying for every form of entertainment. Um, as to a fear hierarchy, honestly, I see that more from just lefty wackos inside the entertainment sphere in general,
In general, yeah.
because it's that idea of, oh, you're the outsider. You don't side with our political persuasion. You didn't put up your black square to support BLM. You supported Kyle Rittenhouse. You shared a YouTube link from Nick Rekieta that we think is bad, bad, bad. Oh well, I guess this awesome new gig that you booked, maybe that's gonna have to go away. I don't know if you want to play ball. Um, I say that just in general from people who are possessed with that leftist mentality, that emotionally driven mentality in entertainment, and again, that is across the board. So
Yeah.
take that for what you will. Um, if it's entertainment, you can guarantee that is going on. Save for if it's entertainment, coming from I don't know, a more right leaning, they probably pray before every single shoot. So I don't know if the same exact thing is going on there, but most forms of entertainment on the whole, you're going to find a lot of that.
And he has a couple more. I think you've answered most of this one already, but we'll go for it. Are employees afraid to share their real opinions about any sensitive topic, both political and non-political, in fear they may be subject to repercussions?
Those on the right, definitely.
Okay.
Yep.
And he's asking if you've ever met Chris Sabat or Caitlin Glass, and what's your opinion on them?
Yes. From what I know of them, they've been nothing but pleasant to me. Chris Sabat, I actually got to sit in on one of his sessions for Meisei's story. It was the mix baseball anime, and he was awesome to watch work. Very, very kind to me. It was just a nice little meeting. And yes, Caitlin Glass, I've worked with her on a number of times. She's a fantastic actress. She's a hell of a director. A funny little story. I was there one day. I was going to be, I think I want to say I had a directing session at night, or it was either a directing session or I had a session later on that I was going to be acting for. And I was sitting on one of the couches in the back, just shooting the breeze with a friend. And she just pops out of her booth and she's like, "I need guys, you and you, come on." And she just grabbed me and another dude that was there and threw us inside the booth. Like, okay, so here's a scene, here's what's going on, and go. And so we just popped in, just did a couple quick little takes. And was like, "Oh, you guys saved the day. Thank you." But yeah, she's always been very, very kind to me, very cordial. So I think she's pretty awesome.
That's
Sabat
awesome.
too.
Wonderful. One fine fictional men's asking if there's any sources for voice acting for beginners.
Oh, dude, voice acting for beginners? Ooh, what do you mean, like when you say sources? Like, what do you mean? Like, are there answers to, or not? You mean like avenues to get started?
Yeah, I think that's what the question's
Oh,
meant for.
yeah, absolutely. Well, what I recommend to people, first off, the question I usually ask people is, number one, are you an actor? Do you have any kind of acting experience? Like, have you done any kind of work on stage or anything like that? Because that's the first thing you want to address. Like I said earlier, you have to be an actor first before you can be a voice actor, because
Yeah.
you've got to corral that talent so that you can then lend it to your voice. That's the first thing. Get some acting experience. Taking classes is a great way to do that, but also get involved in doing some theater classes, because then you get to be a part of bigger ensembles. You get to learn what it's like to have certain timings you've got to meet, certain quirks of just the nature of production, certain lingo you'll pick up, like, okay, everybody take 5, thank you 5, or they might say, all right, for the cheap seats, and you got to know what that means. They might say, all right, from the top, a lot of that same lingo is very interchangeable with the voiceover realm. So it wouldn't hurt to also just whatever it is that you want to get into, whether it be Broadway or movies or anime, consume a lot of it. Really consume a lot of it, and not just every single one. Like, go and really look up the high quality ones. Like, if you're gonna watch some anime and really watch for performance, go dig up Cowboy Bebop, go dig up Steins Gate, go dig up Evangelion.
Oh, yes.
If you're gonna watch for theater, you know, get into Phantom of the Opera, get into Les Miserables, get into some of Andrew Lloyd Webber's stuff. Like, really, really, really dig into it. As for other avenues that you can look at, I mentioned classes. Classes are a great, 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 great opportunity for you to be able to get in front of the directors that you may one day be working for. Excuse me. There's a lot of directors out there that do offer classes, and there's a lot of actors in general that do offer classes too. If I had to choose between taking a class from somebody who is just a voice actor versus somebody I know is actively directing, I'm going to go to the director's class, because I know that every time I get into the booth to perform during the class, that's a chance for me to show what I've got in the tanks, what kind of talent I have. And a lot of directors, they will hire new talent directly from those classes, and they will essentially enlist people straight from those. That's more or less how it happened for me with Joel McDonald. He saw me acting, and in the middle of one of my takes, he goes, "You've done this before, haven't you?" I said, "Yeah, I have." And so afterwards, it was like, "Hey, send me your email." Went into to Funimation. The rest is history beyond then. But yeah, first and foremost, get yourself some experience. If you have experience, then really, 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 really critically consume the best of the best, and consume anime that has people whose vocal print matches your own, you know, similar, at least instead of the same kind of tonality, because that's who you're going to be up against. Those are the people, you know, if you can do some of the things like Ian Sinclair can do when he does these awesome throat ripping screams, or when he can't talk like this and he lets the words fall out of his mouth. Like, if you can do some of that stuff, really, really, really hone in on that too, because great actors steal, they don't borrow. And then third, take classes with people that are working in positions that have the ability to bring you on as a talent.
Yes.
That's so awesome. Those would be my three things. And there are a lot of classes offered here in the DFW area. You can, like, Kyle Phillips offers acting classes. He's a hell of a director, hell of an actor. I believe I want to say Chris Rager is still offering his class. His class is a fantastic one. Joel McDonald, he does classes from time to time. He does a really cool directing class as well. I have seen, oh goodness, I've seen just about every single director at Funimation in some form or another teaching classes from time to time, and just in the last couple of years. So if you hop on their Twitter pages, they'll oftentimes post, "Hey, I have new class coming up. Check it out. Sign up, start whatever day. We've got X amount of spots," and you got to be real quick to jump on them because they fill up like that.
Oh wow! We have I believe it's a question from Nerdy Sweetie Peachy. Hi, Mr. Rolon. Rolon, if I wanted to work for Funimation, I'd have to be on their political sphere. That's a question. And to keep my job, I'd have to be like them and gossip about people and be mean. So that those are two questions.
I don't want to say that you'd have to necessarily be on the same political sphere, but if you do differ from, I guess, mainstream political ideology that is kind of stock and trade for those who are more on the creative and side of things, because more creative people, they tend to lean more left just because a lot of things are feeling based. Doesn't mean that you have to be of the same alignment as them to keep your job. It would just mean that if you don't want to rock the boat, you'll end up having to kind of keep your mouth shut or just shy away from certain conversations if it goes to a political topic. And then as for having to engage in the gossip, no, you don't have to engage in gossip at all to maintain a job. There were plenty of times when in any job that I've been at, because I've been at a lot of different acting gigs, where I hear people start to go away and I just step back and I bury my head in my phone or a book. So, I mean, you can definitely be your own person.
Yeah.
For sure. It just comes down to if you want to engage or not.
Right. We have one from the Ragnarok Knight, who is also one of our Supreme Canuckleheads. Do you have a voice actor that you look up to? He says, mine personally is Tony Jay, rest in peace, as well as Michael Bell and Simon Templeman.
Sure. Oh man. Jack Angel, who again recently passed away, I really, really looked up to him. And it was not so much for his acting, because he had this really, really deep voice like this. It was super, super gravelly. But he would play, when they started doing the remake of the Lone Ranger radio show, he played Tonto. So the him bad feller, Kimosabi. I really liked him because of his presence of mind and the way he looked at acting. And one of the things that he said that also stuck with me was, he said, in this biz, you have to run with the hounds nipping at your heels. And when it came to auditioning, he said, yes, as actors, we have to face a lot of rejection. Oh, I didn't get this, I didn't get that. But it also comes down to what your mindset is. He said, think of it this way. If you're auditioning for a job, then the job was never yours in the first place.
Yeah.
So if you don't book it, you don't have to look at it as though you were rejected. It wasn't your job. So how can you really, really feel lost or be sad about something that was never yours to begin with? And for that, I really, really admired him a lot. And the other person to look up to just for their acting ability is Steve Downes, Master Chief.
Yes.
Before I realized who that was, I would be driving into Chicago to go see my agent, and I'm listening to the drive as I'm heading into to Chicago, and I'm hearing Master Chief's voice. All right, next up, we've got Love Gun by Kiss. And it's like, what? And then come to find out that he was actually signed on to the same exact agency that I was in Chicago.
That's amazing. That's so good.
Those would be my two favorites for sure.
That's
the ones I look up to.
We have one from Bloomy Blonde Hearts. Question for Eric. Would you ever consider starting your own studio or working with someone to start a studio together?
That question has been kicking around my head a lot. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that my wife and I have definitely talked about it, even at length. But at this point, I'd have to say no. And things can change, as sometimes we get audibles pulled on us. Kind of like me and just not being at Funimation. Which if I can, I have to say, Funimation they always did right by me when I worked for them. I thought it was a fantastic place to be a part of. Any place you go to work, sometimes the people are kind of crummy there, but not everybody. Just like people say, not all police. Well, not all police. I had a wonderful time. The production team there is incredible. I made a lot of friends. The producers there are so awesome. It was very, very rewarding while I was still able to do what I loved. But I guess on the note of starting a studio, reason I say I don't think I would, not that I don't have at least a minor desire to, for a couple of reasons. One, there's a lot of studios here. There really are. Into the DFW area, there's a lot of people doing the same thing. It's a tough market to get into if you're a starting studio. I've seen a few that have been able to do it though, like Sound Cadence Studios. They actually do a lot of work directly with Funimation, even taking on the titles to be recorded and mixed there, which is super, super cool. Like, that's awesome. Starman Studios, they were getting some stuff from over in Korea. I got to star in a film called A Dog's Life. Sorry, not A Dog's Life. Oh crap! I forgot the name of the film. What was it called? A Dog's something. It was a Korean film that Starman Studios did. But because there's so many other studios here, so I kind of feel like it's a little bit saturated. And then the other reason that I don't think I want to is, I mentioned before that I'm also a biblical historian. A Dog's Courage. Thank you, Kylie. Coming in clutch. It's called A Dog's Courage. Look it up. It's awesome. I play Jacob, the lead. Yay. But as I mentioned, I am a biblical historian and just a history buff in general. I love to teach. If you guys happen to check out my YouTube channel, which is Angel Legend, 1L, all one word. Greg, you can type it in the chat for him if you don't mind. You'll see on there that I have a number of tutorials, because I used to do a lot of cosplay. Specifically, though, I like to make suits of armor. So it was like the Halo armor series. I have a whole playlist inside there that'll teach you how to make from start to finish Master Chief suit of armor from Halo 4. So I love to teach, and I love to explain things. Because I think a lot of levels deep, and not that I'm trying to say that I'm, more adept at my gray matter working than, thank you, Greg, than somebody else is. But I think a lot of levels deep, and I know that I have a way of explaining things to people that a lot of people can't do. And oftentimes I see the light bulb go on and they go, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, now I get it. So I've really started to devote a lot more time to the podcast that I run, also on the same channel. It's called Tough Love.
That's so
And
awesome.
what I try and, what's that?
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun because I started going down this route. This is also one of those things where it's like either one of those near misses or those odd happenings in your life that we kind of want to discount, but you can't.
Yeah.
A few years back, when Stephen Hawking passed away, my cousin had gone online and said, he just really kind of poured his heart out for Stephen Hawking and the incredible gift that he was to the world of science. And I simply said, I don't agree with his views on God, but I admit he was an incredible mind, and it's sad to see him pass. My heart goes out to his family, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And my cousin came back with a bunch of questions, because he's a self-proclaimed atheist, and a bunch of really hard questions. And so I thought, you know what? After I answered all those questions, I said, you're going to have to give me some time, because it's easy to ask a question, but it's not easy to answer a question.
Yes.
And they were all biblically related. So I took the next probably month to month and a half researching like mad, and I found the answers. It wasn't like I just gave him some fob-offish answer. I said, you know what? Give me some time, but I will find the answers for you. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with being able to provide answers to the hard questions that face Christianity. And then, kind of as an aside, to the founding history of America, and even some history abroad, just in the world. And so I really, really have found a supreme love for being able to do that, for being able to correct the failings of the progressive church, and do so in a way that's fun and not like you're just sitting there being Bible thumped, because I'm very much a person like, it's not my job to judge outside the church. As Paul said, he says, hey, who am I to judge outside the church? Because then I have to go outside the church. No, my job is to keep my brothers in line within the church. Let the world do what they want to do. Joshua said it best. Hey, essentially paraphrasing again, they can do what they want. As for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord. So that's the way I approach it. I never browbeat people over the head with the word of God. I'm not a Bible thumper in that crazy 9-disc televangelist sense.
Yeah.
I love the history of it, and it's I find the principles that I glean from the Bible, when I apply them to my life, things just work out. So that's the modus operandi that I maintain. So that's a long way of saying that's probably why I won't start my own studio, because I have fallen in love with this, and I'm good at it.
I mean, that's perfect. I mean, it's one of those things, right? When you find something to apply to your life, some people find it in religion. Some people find it in other aspects, right? But when you apply yourself and you take the moral teachings of whatever it is that you're following, and you walk that path, isn't it so like bizarre how things just fall into place for you?
It is, because it's, if you do, like we talked about a number of times already tonight, if you devote yourself to something that is meaningful, man, it becomes that positive feedback loop. It's like you get to see essentially new life pumped back into you, because like you get the reward for doing the thing initially, but then you get to see how that affects other people. And say you're in a position at a soup kitchen where you're ladling out soup and you're handing packages of saltines to bums, but you get to see them light up because you just got to provide them maybe their only meal for the day. It's like you get the initial act, but then you get to think, wow, this person, I don't know where they'd be in the next hour and a half. They might be out scoring some drugs, but for this small modicum of time, here they are at a table with others in the same situation, and they're enjoying a meal, and I got to help provide that. So if you do something meaningful, not expedient, not trying to take the fast way there, but do what's meaningful, it might take you a while to get where you want to go, and it might take you a while to be at the top of the heap, in terms of just your general know-how of what it is you want to do, but it will be so worth it, and it will be so rewarding.
Well, that being said, because we've talked about how you got here, and all that stuff now, and all this experience that you've gotten now, what projects or things are you going to do with all of this knowledge now and all this experience? Because you're well equipped now. Do you have anything planned?
Well, yeah, I do actually. I can't really go into details about it right now. I have I'll be doing a show next week that I'm really, really excited for. I'm expecting just big things to come from it. I'm also, I was able to branch out more with the podcast that I've been doing. My shows they're now monetized. Not that that's like my only avenue of income. I like to have a lot of irons in the fire, as it were.
Yes.
But the big goal is I would love to keep going on the apologetics route, and I would love to make that my main focus. I still want to act because it's always going to be a part of me. But it's secondary to what it once was.
Yeah.
I love just the teaching of it. I really do.
That's so awesome.
And as before anybody jumps to the thought that maybe like I have it out for them, if you're of a differing, I don't know, sexual orientation or differing religion or differing, I don't know, geographic location, throw that out right away. I love because I'm told to love. I love my neighbor just as I love myself. And I'm not a person to try and go pick a fight for just the fight's sake. I'm not a person who has to try and read everybody their laundry list of errors because I get some kind of pleasure out of it. No. It's like if what's Matt Damon say in the movie Adjustment Bureau? Two things. If you want to keep friends, don't talk to them about politics and religion. Well, hey, I lost all the ones that didn't want to stick around, so now I'm left with all the friends who don't mind talking about that. But you can rest assured that I'm not going to be coming for you, as they say.
No, you can leave that for me. I have a long list of enemies that I make on a weekly basis.
Another one there.
There's another one. Yep. There's another one. No, that's so awesome. It's so great to see that you're kind of taking this in stride and you're doing the best for it. You know, you have a new family that you're raising now, and you have way more important things than a bunch of imaginary people on social media to worry about.
Right. Yeah, that's the whole thing about just perspective. We did a few months back, we did a month of just off the grid.
Yeah.
And it's nice because on the one hand, you're able to focus on other things that maybe you were neglecting. Say you weren't working out as much because maybe you watched maybe your routine was I go to work, come home, I watch a couple episodes of some show on Netflix, and then I go to bed. Now you're like, yeah, maybe I'll read a book or maybe I'll go work out for a little bit. That was nice on the one hand, but it was also super nice because I wasn't just being bombarded with all the garbage day in, day out, and it was almost like detoxing my soul. So yeah, I like to do that from time to time, but the perspective that it provides you is, man, there are so many other important things that you can worry about. There are so many other things that it's like what's happening right here, right now, this conversation, this here means more to me than any role I've ever booked. This right here, this means more to me, to be able to engage with people, to be able to have a conversation that maybe isn't the most comfortable to have, but it's meaningful. And to go back to what I was saying, a few minutes ago, if I can inspire somebody else to pick up their own proverbial cross, to grow a set of muscles, and to get out there and make their voice heard on those hard topics, knowing full well that a lot of people aren't going to like it, but they're the ones that do, and the ones that come to your aid when you need it, they will be the ones that will stick with you. They will be the ones that will stand closer than a brother. And they will be the ones that are able to provide more meaning to your life. So don't sleep on the growing your vocal muscles, if you will.
Well, and that's exactly why I started and continued this podcast, is because it's one of those things. You have to have difficult conversations with people that you might not necessarily talk to on a daily basis, but you have to get a different opinion, get something meaningful push forward. I guess we'll be wrapping this up pretty soon, but sure. Did you have because I know that you have a little one that needs your attention, so I don't want to take too much time out of your day. But did you have any advice for people who are terminally on Twitter right now that I know are watching this stream because they cannot unplug from drama? Do you have any advice for those individuals?
I do. It's really easy to get sucked in to just that corrosive cauldron, if you will. Oh, by the way, real quick, Gav. Well, thank you, brother. I'll have to take you up on that next time I'm there. But it's really, really easy to get sucked into that corrosive cauldron because we are addicted to outrage. Bad news travels so many times faster than good news does. It's that's hardwired into us. It's like when somebody wants to give you the next dish on something, you're like, ooh, yeah, hit me with it. But Dante said it really, really well. He said, "The gates of hell are open day and night. Smooth is the descent and easy is the way." So to say that walking the fine line is not going to be easy. And it's going to be quite a bit tougher than taking that really easy route to damnation. Damnation within your social circle, damnation within your work life, damnation within your love life. So you wake up every day, and the day that's presented to you is loaded with possibility. Every single day is just riddled with it. And you have, if you sleep on like a regular or 16/8 schedule, then you've got 16 hours that you're awake that you can do anything with.
So true.
So make the decision to treat yourself. This is, to borrow from Jordan Peterson, make the decision to treat yourself like someone that you're responsible for caring after. And if that means that you've got to step away from that crazy echo chamber that is social media for however long, a few hours, a day, a week, a month, a year, then make the decision that you know is going to be in your best interest because you need to care for you. One of my favorite verses of the Bible is actually in Proverbs chapter 4. And it's a father talking to his son. He's just trying to give him little nuggets of wisdom. And he says, "My son, keep your heart with all vigilance, because from it flow the springs of life." And more or less what that means is your first duty is to your own heart, because our hearts, we can get hurt really, really easily. But we can also encourage and inspire and lift up. But if your heart is sick, if you're hurting on the inside, you're not going to really be able to give and inspire and lift up effectively. So if guarding your heart, if treating it with the care that it deserves, treating yourself like you do matter and like you're supposed to care for yourself, if that means you got to shut it off, then I know it's hard, but shut it off. And if you're a person that every time your phone lights up, you're just like, oh crap, I got to be here for the next 10 minutes, then turn off notifications. Make yourself a rule that, hey, before whatever hour of the day, I am not going to check social media. So a lot of times if it's during the work week, I have a rule that typically I don't like to check any kind of social media until after 6 o'clock, because like 6 o'clock is when typically our cutoff time is for working. Or maybe you're a person where you're like, you know what? When I get up in the morning, I have to accomplish these 3 tasks first, and then I'll reward myself with, 5 minutes of scrolling the wall on Facebook or Twitter or something like that. And that's just on the side of what you will potentially be bombarded with. The other side of things is how you choose to engage. And this is such a fine line here, because it's not a sinful thing to be angry. Even the good book tells us, hey, go ahead, be angry, but in your anger, don't sin. And there's a difference between being angry with somebody and saying something stern and hard to them with the intent of first leveling a rebuke, but also bringing about correction. There's a big difference between that and simply being malicious to try and hurt somebody.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself going online and making comments, and the comments you're making are coming from that malicious place because you just want to see people squirm, you just want to hurt them, you want to hurt their feelings, you want them to go to bed at night and be like, God damn that guy, bastard. If that's what you're doing, then I gotta tell you, that's the wrong way to go about it. oh, sure, you can still crack jokes and have some fun, and you'll kind of poke them a little bit, but you're then shifting from malicious to having fun, bringing some correction, and maybe you can do it correction in kind of a backhanded way. So you kind of have to step back from yourself and look and go, all right, how are my interactions on here? Am I adding to the noise, or am I offering solutions? Because it's easy to complain about something, but it's a whole another issue to try and provide a solution to the issue we're complaining about.
Absolutely correct. That is fantastic. Wow. Well, thank you. I mean, thank you so much. Like, oh my God.
Thank you.
If it's okay, I want to just hold on to you for like another 10 minutes or so after the show, just in Discord, so we can hop in the voice chat in Discord for all the people that are in Discord that want to come in and chat with you directly. So guys, if you haven't already joined the Discord, you can do so by either joining the channel or on Twitch or on the Patreon. We can get the link to the Discord there, and we can have just a quick chat with Eric before he has to go. But yeah, that's been what an absolute pleasure to speak with you today.
This has been wonderful.
I'm gonna try my best to get you introduced to a few people that I know that I think that would be very beneficial for you to chat with and all that. That'd be wonderful. Too, so yeah,
I would welcome it. Thank you.
Where can people find you, and how can people contact you? I'm going to put all this information in the description too later. So.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. It is just at Eric Rolon, ERICROLON. You can also look up the show that Power Keg Greg in the chat and I do on Friday nights. It is called Hot Button Co-op. If you click on his face there, Power Keg Greg, the show itself is titled Hot Button Co-op, but it's hosted on his channel because he also does game streaming as well. And that is on Friday nights from 7 to 9. And that's, to, I guess, refresh it in everybody's minds. It's us combining video games with just a good old weekend recap between each other. Sometimes there's whiskey, sometimes there's popcorn, sometimes there's peanuts. Who knows? But it's always been Halo as of late. The other place you can check me out is, as Power Keg put in the chat, is my YouTube channel, Angel Legend. It's all one word, ANGELEGEND. On there, you can scroll back through the annals that I have of all the armor making videos and all the prop and all the cosplay stuff. But what'll be happening on that channel going forward now is going to be the Tough Love podcast.
Perfect.
So if you're into God and gaming, then hey, something for everybody.
That is absolutely wonderful. Well, thank you again. I honestly so much for spending the time and chat with us today, and letting people know who you are and what you've been through. And I couldn't have said anything better myself, honestly. You said it, you pulled the words right out of my mouth. So you've been a fantastic guest. But was there anything else that you wanted to say that we might have missed just before we end?
Well, I guess a quote that I coined, which I guess I'll leave you with this one. And this, I think you can apply this to any avenue of life. And that's, if you ever catch hell, don't hold it. And if you're going through hell, do not stop. Because if flames can rise, then so can you.
That is fantastic. And we'll end it with that. Thank you guys so much. This has been Canuckleheads. Have yourselves a great day, and keep your stick on the ice. Until next time, bye-bye.
Adieu.
Perfect. And we are off.